ever-evolving story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Let's Drill Pulling Live. Gonna start a little bit early tonight. I got an exciting show for you. Mike's coming on a little bit later. He had some stuff going on with the kids tonight, and Mackenzie took the night off because I told her we've been running hard. We were up in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all weekend long for the Midwest Spring Super Pull. Over 600 entries, I think, total in 2 days of mini rods and garden tractors. Saw many of you up there. I got to drive a mini rod. It was fun. The video is up on our Facebook page. Tonight we got Dave Schultz and Chris Aldridge coming on from Toledo Aerial Media. Dave Schultz is the big blue shirt of Bowling Green, and they're going to tell you who the teams are for Season 4 Behind the Hook. If you don't know what Behind the Hook is, head over to the National Tractor Pulling Championships Facebook page or YouTube channel. They do in-depth shop tours behind the scenes. Last year was Simons, Venny's, and who else was it? Oh, and Holman's. And this year it's going to be, I can't tell you yet, but it's pretty cool. Three big names that you're going to be excited to see. So let me know where you're watching from tonight. I'm always curious to see where you're checking in. And number two, I want to talk about something really cool that Full Pull's doing with these driver rankings. If you paid attention, there's a new podcast called This Week in Pulling with Dan Mayer, Jeremy Krieger, and Miles Krieger. So 3 celebrity announcers. Dan Mayer is our full-time voice of Full Pull. So all the live streams that you hear, you're going to hear the great Dan Mayer. And then Jeremy and Miles will join him as co-hosts. They've all been friends a long time. And they're doing a podcast every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock on the Full Pull social media platforms. Chuck's checking in from Illinois. Hey, shout out to our friends in Kentucky and Indiana. I hope nobody got flooded away. Mother Nature has had a mind of her own this year. I live in Wisconsin. We've had snow one day, and then we've had 72 degrees the next day. So my office is close to a golf course, and I can see out through the windows, and I can see that the pins are in. So Dick Blank Spurs checking in from Inwood, Iowa. A lot of, pulling season's right around the corner, guys. This can be here before we know it. Obviously, I'm very involved with the Pullers Championships, May 16th and 17th. Columbus, Texas is May 2nd and 3rd. And then Glencoe, Kentucky is the 10th and 11th, or the 9th and the 10th. I got to double check that. But that's Donnie Sullivan's pull. But I digress. Yes, let's talk Jason and a mini rod. So that was super fun. We'll talk about that a little bit. Chuck, thanks for doing that. Matt Carter's checking in North Carolina. Thanks for checking in, Matt. Again, I'm starting a little bit early tonight because I want to talk about the Full Pull driver rankings. This isn't like Dan Mayer sat in the back room and came up with these. So Full Pull reached out to pullers in the class across all the associations and said, you rank them. So they said, who's the best driver? Not who has the most money, not who has the best equipment, who's the best driver? And then we're doing this Full Pull is with a bunch of different classes. And it's fun to see this. All the pullers remain anonymous. That way they can give you your true feelings. Only one person sees it on the Full Pull team. I don't see it. I have no idea who's coming until we find out so we can put our promos together. But this week in pulling is this Wednesday. So it'll be April 9th at 6 p.m. 4-wheel drive modified trucks. So let me know who you think. And I think the rules are you had to compete last year. Yeah, you had to compete in 2024, and it's voted on pullers in the class, and you can't vote for yourself. So they vote. You vote who's number 1, who's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It's a point system. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if Holman's, let's just say, are number 1, they get 5 points, and then all these pullers are added together, and our Full Pull person counts all this, and they share the information with Dan, Jeremy, and Miles, and that's how they announce it. Pro stocks are next week. I know we're doing minis. Super stocks, that's going to be Alky and diesels all together. Super stock diesel trucks. Unlimiteds. I think I might be missing a class there. I know we post on the Full Pull Facebook page there. So yes, no, it's not non-drivers cannot vote. This is for competitors in the class that compete, and you had to compete in 2024 to vote, and they were selected by Full Pull, again, anonymous across all the associations, so it's fair. So it's really a good judge of character. It's kind of like a poll, right? That you come out of a voting, and they say, we interviewed 100 people who they voted for tonight. It's kind of a sample poll like that, where it's a good mix across all the associations. So I want to kind of go through that and share that with you. I want to dive into a little bit. I was hoping Mike could be on tonight. We'd really kind of tear it apart, if you will. Not that there's anything to tear apart, but knock it out. Did Terry Hargan retire, or is this his last year? I don't think Terry's retired. I think he's still kicking ass. If I remember, did he win PPL points this past year? I'm not sure. Chuck, I'll find out for you there. Or if any of you are watching can let me know. That would be cool. Let's see here. I need to go to my... So here's the list. Chase Richardson was voted number 5. Again, voted on by their two-wheel drive competitors. Suffering Sanity, Grand National Champion, Louisville winner, and he won the Underlay. So that he was number 5 in the voting. Let's see who was number 4. Number 4 was Michael White. Beautiful Chevy two-wheel drive. He was number 4. And again, they're doing four-wheel drives this week, fans. Four-wheel drives this week. Number 3 was Nelson's. Jared Nelson, two-wheel drive. That's the Midnight Revenger, the Midnight Motorsports team. They got mini rods. They got two-wheel drives. Okay. They were number 3. Number 2 was Donnie Sullivan with Big Shtick. I've driven many trucks over the year. Again, we're going to be streaming their event on Full Pull Live in, when is it? Let me check the dates real quick. It's the second full week in May. It's a weekend before the Pullers Championship. I want to get the right dates on that for you. May 9th and 10th in Glencoe, Kentucky. And then number 1 was Jesse Petro. So I want to know, do any of these surprise you? Okay, as you look through this, who got shunned? Okay, who do you think is a better driver than one of these? Let me know in the comments, because that's what makes this great. Everybody's got an opinion on this, and check it out. Where's a Don Nelson from the Outlaws in there? Longtime puller. What are some other names that you think belong on there? Why don't we see RJ Simon on there? Simon, right? They pulled two-wheel drive trucks forever. Now they didn't compete as much last year with the two-wheelers, and RJ's made it very clear that they are going hard on pro stocks and mod and different things like that. Of course, RJ's working hard on their big Farley, the Farley 50, I call it, 50,000 to win, $2,500 buy-in for everybody on that, and that's going to be exciting doing that. So Mike Horton's checking in from Loveland, Colorado. But those are the 5 pullers. This was not picked. This was not voted by fans. Like the Pullers Championship, we let the fans pick who's going to be there. This was voted on 2024 competitors, who they feared the most, who is the best driver, who hasn't, like a Bowling Green, they haven't taken the lead in 30 hooks, but Jesse Petro's coming up. That's who they think could still beat him. That's who they most feared. So let me know in the comments, who do you think got shunned off this list? I don't know who got 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. I don't know how close the voting was, but these are the Full Pull driver rankings, and Full Pull's doing this. So 4-wheel drive's coming out this week. Then I know it's pro stock. I know we made a post on Full Pull Facebook to see what else is coming up. So let me know what you got going on. I got Dave Schultz from Bowling Green and Chris Aldrich from Toledo Area Media coming up behind the hook season 4. They are going to unveil the teams tonight that are going to be there. I'd like to personally thank Jason, Doug, and Kenzie and Full Pull for spending a couple weekends with the garden tractors, super mods, and natural aspirated mini rods. A lot of people don't see these pulls. Yeah, no, the live feed was awesome. You guys, I'm going to put it in the link right now. But first, I want to find. I'm going to find the. I want to show you guys the what do you call it? Don't forget Chandler. Oh no, Chandler's a man. We all know that, Chuck. We all know that. Do you guys agree with this top 5? Do you agree with the pullers? It's hard to argue with the pullers, right? But that's who they voted. Again, there's Dan broke it down in his podcast really good. You can go back and rewatch his podcast on YouTube. It was episode 3. They broke it down a lot more than I'm going to tonight here on this. I'm going to find that so you guys know every Wednesday. I think it's every Wednesday through the Pullers Championship. They're breaking down a class. I know pro stocks are next week, and that'll be really exciting to see who pops out on that. 4-wheel drive trucks are tomorrow or Wednesday in a day and a half. And again, it drops at 6 o'clock. It's on Full Pull Facebook and Full Pull YouTube. I'm going to find that graphic. It shows all of the shows the lineup, and I'm going to put that up on the screen of what. Yeah, here it is, guys. I'm going to upload this really quick. This is fun. This is, like the NFL does this, ESPN does this with power rankings. Matt says, yes, I agree. 100% very top-notch competitors. Absolutely. Hard to argue with that list here. I'm going to take this down. Here's the graphic for their podcast. Again, they're going to do 4-wheel drive ranking reveal this coming Wednesday. So be sure to check that out. Full Pull driver rankings. voted on by the pullers themselves. Again, they vote who's number 1, number 2, number 3, and it's a point system. And then somebody on the full pull team adds all of that up. Here's the breakdown. Again, Bowling Green and Chris will be jumping on in a few minutes. I'm gonna spend an hour with them talking about Behind the Hook season 4. Thought I saved it. Oh, I gotta save it here quick. But here's the breakdown of when they're gonna publish these. So that's how it looks. So April 2nd was two-wheel drive. That was last week. And again, here's the breakdown of the two-wheel drives. Again, voted on by the pullers. Four-wheel drives this week, Pro Stock the following week, then Modifieds, then Super Stock. Super Stock decided to go Alky, light, heavy, diesel, Super Stock tractor all in one, mini rod, Super Stock diesel truck, and then saving the best for last with unlimited modified pulling. So pay attention to those. Just scroll through YouTube and look for episode 3. And then episode 4 will be four-wheel drive trucks. How fitting is that? So again, I'm going to bring on Dave Schultz, El Presidente of the Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association here in a little bit. Well, with Chris Aldrich from Toledo Area Media. Behind the Hook, they just completed season 3. Again, that was Simon's. I'll kind of share some stuff from their YouTube channel here. Put this in the link. They do a deep dive, similar to what we've been doing with Full Pull, with some shop tours and legend series and things like that. Dave Schultz is currently in makeup. And I just, like I said, I want to jump on a little bit, do a little teasing of it right here. I'm going to share the link. I'm going to share I just put in the comments the link to the YouTube page for the National Tractor Pulling Championships. And here's what it looks like. So here's let's see, this was posted a month ago. Here's Simon Says. Here's a sneak peek of Simon's. What it looks like.
Best 200-word essay in 10 minutes will win $200.
I think I'll win.
No, I'm going to win.
They're both writing about the impacts of...
Simon Says Motorsports has been in function for over 30 years, from the founder of Roger Simon and Steve Olson, and the continuation of the legacy with Roger J. Simon and Brandon Simon and the family. They do a great job.
I really enjoy work for Simons. We're like brothers. I mean, we all do everything together, so I can't see going anywhere else.
This episode is in memory of Roger Simon, patriarch of the Simon family, who left behind a legacy now carried on by his sons, RJ, Brandon, and the rest of the Simon Says Motorsports team.
Go big or go home, hero or zero move on Saturday night.
Jim and Paul Homan's face is on the side of Mount Rushmore of pulling. There's no question about it.
That would be the word I would use to describe Ken. He's a legend.
Behind the Hook, Season 3. Stories from the National Tractor Pulling Championships. This episode of Behind the Hook is brought to you by Simpico.
We have been in business for 113 years now. We've always focused on blending our own product. That means that we go out and we source raw materials.
So that's the Simon video. And then I'll just tab back. So again, National Tractor Pulling Championships, YouTube. They also post them on their Facebook page as well. Here's Ken Vinny. So this was all season 3. And tonight, Chris and Dave are going to unveil who you're going to see on season 4. Here's Ken Vinny, just a sneak peek here, quick.
People go, why don't you do something else? I don't know how to play golf. So I'm not any good at that. Hell, you ought to be in the old people's home. I wouldn't be very good at that because I don't know how to play bingo. So I do this. I love it.
So that's a sneak peek of Ken Vinny's. And then here is Holman's. Where's Holman's at? I know that was just posted. There it is. Give you a sneak peek of Holman's here.
Name's pretty self-explanatory, but tell me about how you came up with the truck name.
I guess you can blame that on me. It's pretty simple. It's a 4-wheel drive truck, and we're just playing around. So it's the way I look at it. Other people like to have fun with it, but no, I do too. I can't lie.
I thought it was going to be more than a 4-wheel drive.
It's catchy.
But that's all right. So there we go. That is season 3. And tonight, we'll recap that with Chris. We've got a full hour dedicated to Dave Schultz, again, president of the Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association, the biggest frickin' truck and tractor pull in the world. And Chris Aldridge became good friends with him the last couple of years with Toledo Area Media. They do an amazing job. So, again, I jumped on a little bit early night, so I wanted to do full pull driver rankings and talk about that. Again, revealing that coming up this Wednesday night. They're doing the 4-wheel drives. Maybe Holman's on the list. I haven't seen the list yet, but that you would got to think that's them. Again, there's the reveal of the full pull driver rankings. The best drivers in the sport voted on by their pullers, by the fellow competitors. Not me sitting in the back room, not anybody else doing that. And again, here's your 2-wheel drive last week. And again, 4-wheelers coming this Wednesday, and then Pro Stock the weekend after that. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest, Chris Aldridge from Toledo Area Media. He has one of the coolest beards in all of video production, and the great Dave Schultz. Now, I would love to say that Dave was like my first cousin and we have Christmas together. We do spell our last names correctly. It's just a coincidence that the president of the biggest truck and tractor pull in the world, I have the same last name. So, Dave, I actually had a realtor once with the same last name, and we had to sign an agreement to let the sellers know that we weren't.
Yeah. Well, I know around the board, a lot of times they'll say, "Hey, your brother said this," so I have to sometimes think, okay, is it my real brother or is it you and I? So
yeah.
and every time I see Chris, I think of Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. So yep. one of these days, I'm going to grow one of those long beards.
Do it.
No, I love it. My father-in-law was in a bad snowmobile accident about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago now. And I said I wasn't going to shave until he woke up from his coma. And he was in a coma for about 32 days. I quit after 22 days. Chris, it itched so bad I couldn't even work. And I apologized to my father later. He's doing good today. He can't move his right arm, but everything else is good. So, but I was trying to do that thing. Like, I'm not going to shave until he wakes up. But man, we'll talk about itchy. But I think once you get past that, right, Chris?
Takes some dedication, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Let's Go Pulling. Excited. We got to unveil season 3 teams last year. I peeked them a little bit there, Simons and Holmans and Vaney. Great job. Your videos, Chris, are amazing. Really a deep dive. It's what pulling has always deserved to do. We're starting to do a little bit with Full Pull with some legend series and shop tours. And because we do a good job, Chris, and Dave and I've talked about this, and I'm glad that they connected with you, Chris. We do a good job of showing the vehicle and showing the helmet, but really behind the hook. Who is that person under the helmet? And you guys have really dove into that. And I talked to Travis Schwab. He's from Ringo, Iowa. That's where I was born. He said it was so cool to have you guys come out to the shop and film, and it's neat to see all that stuff. And show the time and the effort and stuff that goes in here. And then Bowling Green obviously is the granddaddy of them all, and excited to have you guys on with us tonight. So, Dave, where do you want to start? I know I kind of want to recap season 3. Obviously, Chris, we'll wait a little bit to reveal season 4. For those of you in the comments, I want to know who you think is going to be on season 4 and who hasn't been on yet. And Chris, can I ask you this question? How do you and Dave and the Blue Shirts figure out who's going to be on Behind the Hook? How about, can we start there? Is that okay, guys?
Yeah, let's start there. So we basically give some thoughts and ideas about the kinds of teams and pullers that we want to see, that we would like to feature. But when it comes to actually making the decisions, that all goes back to Dave and the board. They have their short list, and then I know they kind of all toss out names at the table and they basically cut them down from there. But we give them thoughts and ideas, which they do this season.
Sometimes listen.
Well, this season, one of our big requests from the last couple of years has been answered in one of the teams this season. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to them. They have a lot more experience with all of these teams over a long period of time. So they do the decisions ultimately, but we just kind of give them some fodder to go about their decision making with.
Well, and like I said, and Chris said the board finally listened to one of their ideas that they've pitched almost since day one. But what we do is it's a line item on one of our agendas, and it's usually one that takes a little bit of time. But we'll just start throwing out names, and it'll be, well, what about this? And we write them down, and we'll have the long list for that night, and then from there we just pare it down, knowing we got to stop at 3. And so, it's a lot of fun because, and I don't care, any puller fan or a pulling fan has their favorite teams. I mean, and, I'll say there are ones that, I'm closer to, but I enjoy every team. But to sit and look at the story behind them, last year, I threw out, Ken Veeney. I've been a fan of his since the 80s when he was a drag racer. So, I really wanted to see that. And, he was on the long list, made it to the short list, then finally made the cut. And then, we throw out names of, different teams that are going through things of, doing exciting things and things like that. So we throw that out. And from there, the list gets to the point where we finally do the final cut of the final three teams.
Yeah, I'm just going to show some video without any sound just so people can kind of see. It's so well done. It's not just some kid with the camera standing at the end of the track filming stuff coming down the track. That's kind of what we've seen on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm one of those guys that did that. To see something like this come along, it got me excited. And I know we've talked about it last year, but how did this whole idea come around? Did Dave Schultz or one of the Blue Shirts come up to you and say, "Hey, let's do something cool," or did you approach them? How'd this marriage come together, guys?
Well, well, we started working with Toledo Aerial back in 2016.
Okay.
But when we started working with them and what they're doing now, it was totally different. We wanted them to do some drone footage of like the campground, because, kind of, okay, how is all of this traffic working out and things like that. And we did a little bit of, footage around the stands. I know at one point they did a really cool thing it was a time lapse of the entire event from basically the crow's nest and,
cool.
Watching traffic, but that was what we started working with them. And then we saw the quality of their video of that. And we said, well, geez, we could use that for advertising. And so the first couple of years, it was not nearly what it's turned into. The relationship every single year has grown to what it is now. And, behind the hook, actually, the guys at TAM brought us this idea of doing, the behind the hook. And, we looked at it at first going, I don't know if we can do this, because
right.
it's a huge undertaking. And, with working with them, it progressed. And we looked at it going, okay, if we throw, almost all of our advertising budget to it, what better way to get fans to come into our event is to show them what actually happens and the people that come there. And, it just really worked out well. And, with the expertise of them, basically we give them the teams that we want to do and we step back, and the rest of the production, they take it from there and they just take off with it.
Yeah, Chris, and thank you for letting me, I guess, be in some of the videos with, I sat in that room, but when I saw all your equipment, and I'm not a techie guy like you are, Chris, but obviously working with full pole, I get to see a lot of the live stream equipment now, and I've been exposed to some of that. To see your equipment, it was pretty impressive. And then obviously the quality of your videos as well. It's well done. And again, I've said multiple times, and I'll continue to say it. This is what our sport needs to take it to the next level. This is what we're trying to do with live streaming, Chris, to make it look like something that you would, I hate to say it, but NASCAR-esque or NHR-esque. It's what the sport deserves. We're spending just as much money to compete as they are. Obviously, we want to get the winnings up as well. But putting professional stuff out like this for sponsors to see, I think can really draw in more sponsors. It might not be no secret, but maybe that's one of the reasons Maximum Tire came along, Dave. You're doing something quality like this. I want my name attached to this, right? So it's fun. It's fun to see this. So I like to put that all together. So again, just playing the Holman video right now. All these are on YouTube. Jim Alt sent me something, but I can't click on it. Jim, send that to me in Facebook Messenger. So Jim is one of the Blue Shirts. He sent me.
Yeah, while you're waiting for that, Jason, I guess I can kind of give our perspective at TAM, where we came from. So when we started working with the event and the Blue Shirts, we had no experience in tractor pulling. So we came into it pretty raw. And after the first event, the one thing that was really, apparent to us is there was a lot of untold stories. And as people that, dwell a lot in the creative realm, we immediately started coming up with ideas like, how can we tell these stories? There's so much great things going on here in this sport. And it's almost like we weren't seeing a lot of people talking about it. And then around the same time, we were watching shows like Hard Knocks, which focuses on NFL training camps. And that's when the ideas kind of started to click. Like, okay, we can take this approach and apply it to truck and tractor pulling. Because we were looking at things like NASCAR and IndyCar and NHRA, because, at the top level of their motorsports, obviously you got to take your cues from that. What they're doing is probably a pretty good idea. So we're trying to figure out how can we apply some of those things. And then what really was the final catalyst was the release of Drive to Survive, which is a similar behind the scenes show that's focused on F1. And that really, to me, that's what really just lit up my creativity in terms of, okay, here is the concept that we've kind of been noodling on and talking to the board about for years, but here it is applied to an actual motorsport. Now, we do things a little bit differently, obviously, than what they do, but the concept is nothing unique. I always tell people that. I mean, the first idea kind of came from Hard Knocks, and then Drive to Survive really gave us the true example of, okay, here's somebody applying this behind the scenes documentary or docu-series, as they're kind of referred to now, applying that to a motorsport. And, here we are. So I always tell people, we didn't start in truck and tractor pulling, but truck and tractor pulling has adopted us. And we really, we look at it as a privilege to be able to tell these stories. And, all of these teams have accepted us in with open arms, at their homes, shops, at the event. It's great. I mean, we really, truly feel like part of the sport now. And I think that helps us, because I always tell Dave, everything that we do here, all the ideas that we come up with are working towards that common goal of how do we increase the exposure of this sport to the rest of the world? How do we grow the sport?
Yeah. Well, that's yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, when we first started this, the first season, not only did we have to ask them, hey, are you willing to be part of this? Are you willing to, give us access to your shop, to your team during, when things are not going well, you're going to have a camera either behind you or in front of you. And we had to explain what it was. Season 2 was a little easier. Season 3 was really easy. We go and say, hey, would you like to be part of Behind the Hook? And it was like, yes. This year was unbelievable. I mean, literally, as I was walking up to one of the competitors, and I will make that comment, when we reveal it, it was, I walked up and he said, yes. It was like he knew what I was walking up for, and it was the ask, all the asks were at the farm show this year. It was really cool because we could actually do it, in person. But it's gotten to the point we don't have to explain what we're doing. They now know what we're doing, and that part's really cool.
All right, competitors, if Dave Schultz walks up to you at farm show, just say yes. Dave, now that you know that, be like, hey, who's taking me out for supper tonight? Yes, yeah, I am. That kind of stuff. It's all good. It's all good. Again, welcome to Let's Go Pulling Live. Super excited tonight. We dedicated an hour from 7:30 to 8:30 tonight Central. Dan Mayer always calls it fast time for you East Coast guys. Real time. He calls it real time. We're talking with Dave Schultz, president of Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association, a.k.a. Bowling Green. Chris Aldrich, one of the owners of TAM, Toledo Aerial Media, producers of Behind the Hook. We're sharing some of the Holman up right now, the Holman episode, of course, the 4-plate truck, well-known, one of the most popular pulling trucks on the circuit. And they're gonna reveal tonight who you are going to see on season 4 in 2026. And we're just catching up. If you have any questions, William Lumberg's watching tonight. Dave, we should do Behind the Campground, would be insane. I think that's more of an OnlyFans thing. I think this could be pay-per-view, Dave Schultz. I think that's something Beer Money could actually do. I don't think that's professional enough for Bowling Green, but I think Beer Money could adopt that, maybe, Dave. So.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But the thing is that some of the stories from behind the campground during the 50th, we did the whole cooler contest because people, have built rigs, all these years, and it's amazing. I mean, everything from pontoon boats to speed boats to, actual, the caterpillar being one of the actually almost like a pulling sled out there. And I mean, there are some stories out there. There are some stories out there that can be told on YouTube.
Is there is that on YouTube, that episode? Do you know?
Wait, what episode?
The campground stuff. I want to play that.
No, we haven't done that yet. That was actually a lot of before we had Toledo Aerial do some of our stuff. I don't know. You might have some of our footage during the cooler contest, and that was actually right out on the tracks, which is cool.
So 2016 was my first Bowling Green. Miles was having one of his babies, Miles Krieger, not him, his wife, but he said that's when the road shows, Miles Beyond 300, and I went out there and did those for him, and that was my first Bowling Green experience. And Dave, I did all of it, as I like to say. So I experienced the campground until 5 a.m. I got up at 9, and yeah, I did it all. I was very proud, and I can't do that anymore, so it's all good. But here's season 1. Again, this is all on the YouTube channel, National Tractor Pulling Championships. It's on Facebook as well. Chris, has there been one that's been extra special to you, or are they all just badass to you in your mind?
Wow, that's a tough question. I figured it was coming up. Well, I will say first that it really is a privilege to be able to produce these episodes because there's a lot that gets left on the cutting room floor. So there's a lot that the board who votes on these teams and sends us and, pays the bill, they don't even see a lot of the things that we get to see. And so I truly feel privileged to do that. I mean, we get really behind the scenes, even more so than the episodes truly convey. So really every team kind of has and every episode kind of has different memories for me. But, the one that you're playing now, I think really with Ken is, that one was just pretty special. Just because of his whole story, his, Hall of Fame career as a drag racer, and now as a tractor puller, and then you get Rona in there too. I mean, there's just we've heard from a lot of people that, a lot of compliments about every episode, but I would say if there was one that's gotten the most comments, I would say it's probably Ken and Rona for all the obvious reasons.
I love his opening. What the hell am I going to do? Play bingo?
Well, and it's amazing. It's amazing. You didn't see a lot of videos of Ken in his shop up until the time he was on, Behind the Hook. And now I know his daughter Terry has posted some pictures of him machining parts, and we used to never see that. And now, I think Ken found out people want to see what he's working on. And that part I thought was really cool coming out of that episode was it kind of, made him aware of people wanted to see what he was doing.
Yeah. Dave, how has this series taken the biggest pull in the world to the next level in your mind?
I think it's shown what's available in Bowling Green. A lot of people, they'll hear the stories of, there's a lot of tractors there. There's, a lot of, of course, people hear about the campground, but it's people see, that up close and personal, the part where, the directors, the blue shirts, things like that, access that only we get to be right there at the starting line where, when we're shooting those videos, people get to see, they're right there along with us. And so I think it's shown more people, the super up close footage. I think that's one of the big things. And then shows the competitors as, they see just, at the pulls, they see him just, going down the track. They may see him in their pits. Well, here they see him at their homes, at their shops. They see that real person aspect of who all these competitors are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, I'm just showing some highlights from YouTube. this is Chris touched on this earlier, kind of where they got some of these ideas from. I'm just kicking around some stuff because I want people to go check out all these videos on your YouTube channel. Chris, how long does it take to put in like Simon's start to finish? How many hours are invested into one episode? Just I don't like what's a rough.
We don't track that. What I can tell you, we don't track that because I don't want to know.
Good. I don't want to have to pay that bill.
We don't pay that by the hour, right?
No. It's what I can say is when we started, it wasn't a year-round project, but it now is. So what I mean by that is by the time we are releasing episodes in January, the board is already starting to discuss who the next season's teams are going to be. And this is a long process. So even before there are, and there's Zach, one of our editors, commenting a lot. So that is very true. It truly is year round though, because as soon as we are releasing these episodes, we've already started on pre-production for the following season. So when we were releasing season 3 earlier this year, we were already in pre-production for season 4. And right now we're pretty heavily in pre-production. Obviously now we've produced this video is kind of our first thing that we've produced for season 4. And then after this, a lot of time will pass until there's any new behind the hook content, because we're going to be filming and doing all of the production, the different events that we go to other than BG. We do some of our visits to the shops and the homes of these teams before the event. Sometimes they're after the event. Kind of depends on what they do for a livelihood and when we can kind of get in there and get the best access. So the amount of hours really would be hard to calculate because there's so much, pre-production and administrative type stuff, but then there is tons of production, meaning cameras, lots of cameras, all different kinds of cameras, flying cameras, you name it. And then after that, once we've shot the content, then we're in post-production. So we're producing all of this editing, the cutting room floor that you always hear about, because we have to take all of this content, which is just hundreds and hundreds of gigs of content, terabytes of content, and cut it down into these episodes that, this season, we really got to the point where these are basically TV show length episodes. If you were to add in commercial breaks, they are as long as a TV show, which was one of our original goals. So the first season, we were kind of in the, 8 to 10 minute range. And then the second season, we kind of jumped up to the 12 to 15 minute range. And now this season, we've bumped into the low to mid 20 range. And that really was our goal from the beginning, was to say, like, we are producing something that could be on TV. So.
No, that's awesome. Maybe, and who knows? I mean, we get tractor pulling popular enough, we can maybe Netflix or somebody will come along and swoop these up, save them. That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Well, they do exist other than YouTube. They do exist currently on Amazon Prime as well, Amazon Prime Video. So
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I will definitely check that out. Again, I'm just sharing just some of your guys' amazing work from the YouTube channel. Again, I'm talking with Dave Schultz, Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association president of Bowling Green, as well as Chris Aldridge, one of the owners of TAM, stands for Toledo Aerial Media. They are the producers of Behind the Hook. Phil and Chris own it, and we're just chatting with Chris. Chris and I have been talking now for a couple of years, and exciting tonight. Before we let them go, they are going to reveal. They have a video made of who you, the fan, will see on season 4. Dave, one thing I've been impressed with, like, I can't argue with any of the people that you have put on Behind the Hook. Like, they all make sense, from old to young to popularity. Like Simon's, I would tell you Simon's move the needle now more than anybody in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing in Farley, RJ and Brandon, big personalities, big farmers, big truckers, legendary with their dad pulling for a long time. They lost him. They're as close to a professional pulling team as like when I went to Gainesville drag race or something like that, to what we have in the sport today with full-time employees dedicated to keeping their rigs going. You see Shelton starting to do some of that stuff as well, Dave. So it's exciting to see that. So the fact that you picked them to do this, I think that's pretty neat. So I wonder how you talked about the long list. how is it narrowed down to the short list? Is it kind of like the NCAAs? You have a committee? Or do you guys like throw beer cans at each other, Dave? You got good stories you can share with us?
It's amazing because I think this last year, I think it took us over an hour to pare the list down. Once we kind of we put the names out there, and then it was literally just kind of each one of the directors had one of the teams that they kind of wanted to put a word in for, and this is who we'd like to really see, and why. What's that story behind, what our thought is to put this together. And that was the thing. We don't look at, okay, where are they located? And granted, this last year was kind of nice with Holman's being basically right in Bowling Green's backyard. I mean, it's only from Bowling Green, I want to say 35 miles to get to their shop from Bowling Green. So, we don't really even look at that part of it. We just look at who they are and what they've done at Bowling Green, and are they somebody that is one of the ones that we see a lot of fans around their haulers. That part kind of plays into it. We kind of look at, okay, who the fans want to see, and every single one of us are Pulling fans. So, we look at who when we go by one of their haulers, who's got a crowd of people around them? Who do we see all the time have people around them to, hey, let's tell their story.
I like it. Chris, what's been your biggest surprise? Like, okay, so Dave hands you a list and says, okay, these are our pullers this year. And you kind of know who these people are now. You've been around. Has anybody shocked you? Like, wow, they're more personality than I thought, or wow, you had to kind of drag an interview out of them. What are some surprises from the production team that you guys have had to work through producing these?
Okay, there's a couple. So one, it's some people aren't the most talkative. I will say Mason Theobald gave us a run for our money. He is a man. He is a man of few words. However, I will say, and here's a little hint at who's coming up this season. There is one that we are featuring this season who will give Mason a run for his money in terms of the fewest words spoken in an episode. Little hint there. But no, I think really one of the biggest surprises to me, because a lot of the teams, we're familiar with them already, having been around the event for years. Right. And then even then, if we look them up online, you can find a lot of their key storylines online. But one of the biggest surprises to me was the Holmans. They themselves said, we're pretty boring. We don't have a lot exciting about us. But we stepped into their home shop and find out they're producing these parts that are going all over. They're doing work on these heads, and they're going all over the country to their competitors, and they're doing bench testing. And Jim Holman works at Dana. He's working on heavy duty axles and stuff, and he kind of uses it as a test bed for his truck, and then vice versa. Things that they've done at work, he applies to his truck for competition, and then some of the things they've done on their competition vehicle, he's applied at work for Dana, which is incredible. And I walked in there, and after learning all this, and I said, guys, like, how did you forget to tell me this part? This is a huge part of your story. So I mean, that was a giant surprise to us, and we were like, wow, this is great. This is the story. Because I was talking to one of the choices for this fourth season the other day, and he said, yeah, I'm pretty boring. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't accept that as an answer anymore. Everybody has a story, and everybody has a different angle. And then I got him talking a little bit, and sure enough, he has an angle that we're going to go with in the episode. So I don't accept the boring thing anymore, because everybody has a story.
Yeah, I will tell you, I think we assume our lives are boring because we live them every day. And I would say pullers have more of exciting lives than we lean on to. But because of that, we don't, any pulling, I think if more pullers had their own social media channels, I think the sport would be better. You know what I mean? Because they would show the stuff working in the shop like that. And speaking of interviews, my favorite podcast in the whole world is the Kill Tony podcast. It's a comedian. He gives them 1 minute segments. He draws random people out of the bucket, and they'll bomb or they'll do really good. But then he does this interview section afterwards, and you'll say, "Tell me something crazy about your life," and well, I did 5 years in the penitentiary. I mean, you know what I mean? It's funny that they're comedians and they make a lot of fun of it. Dave, if you haven't, you got to check out the Kill Tony podcast. It is super
All
funny.
right. Well, one of the other things that I've heard from a couple of the teams, they don't do a ton of interviews. Yeah, they might do a winner circle interview or something like that. And a couple of the teams that actually said they felt like it gave them a voice to kind of tell, number one, their story, but also kind of talk about where pulling's at and what, where they see it going. And they said they've used that in other avenues to help pulling, to keep it going and, make it go to that next step. And, they kind of felt that, geez, this is where it kind of took off from, was now they're not afraid to stand, walk up to a microphone and say something, where before they don't know, I can't do that. And I know, this last year at the PRI show, we had Grant Theobald's mini in our booth, and they were doing a lot more talking than they were, because we had Renee's in 2 years ago, and the guys just kind of stood there and didn't have a whole lot to say. And this year I saw a lot more interaction with the crowd, in our booth. And then I got Darren Hartwell to do an actual kind of interview with them, and they both really, talked way more than what they had before. So it's really cool to see what Behind the Hook has done for a lot of the pullers, just kind of giving them the confidence to, not just stand, sit behind a 3,000 horse motor, but to actually, stand up in front of a microphone with however many people are watching and be able to do it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I love hearing from the pullers themselves. We've made it for Full Pull, we're going to make it more of a thing this year. Way more driver interviews, way more stuff, of the drivers, because that's the people you want to see, and the fan base is there. Like you said, Dave, you walk through the pits, and who do you want to see? That's kind of fun. I want to know from you, those that are watching tonight, who do you want to see, or who do you think is going to be on season 4? Who do you want to see on season 5 or season 6? 3 a year. Chris, is that kind of what the budget from Bowling Green, or how come we're not doing 10? Is 3 all we got time for? Why 3?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some budget behind that too. There's the amount of time that needs to go into it. There's a lot of factors. I mean, this is a big project, so we could certainly produce more. But there's a lot of factors, like you alluded at most of them. There's tons of factors involved with it, not just us being able to produce it. Right. But there's also kind of a quality level that we want to uphold as well. So if we were doing 10 a year, that's unless it was our full time, that's all we were doing, it would be hard to not dilute the quality of the episodes at that point, because we would spread ourselves very thin. Yeah. I mean, we're not a huge production house, and we have a full assortment of other clients and projects that we do as well. I mean, this is a huge project for us, and a lot of our time and dedication goes to it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes into it, and Dave can speak more to the other aspects of it other than that. But if there was an appetite for more episodes and we could make it work, we would certainly do more of it.
Cool. Yeah. How much fan interaction, Chris, have you done? Because I've seen a bunch of different stuff. I went through the YouTube channel the other day. I was seeing a lot of fan interviews. How much of that do you put into the Behind the Hooks, or is that more B-roll type stuff that you're just sprinkling into the social media?
Well, a lot of that, because we do a lot of other work for the BG, yep, in general. So pretty much anything that you see, I'm going to say, I don't know, Dave, what's fair? 95%, 98% of what you see go out on the BG's social media, that's coming from us, because obviously we are capturing all of this content. We're producing it. So we're not just producing Behind the Hook, we're producing everything else. So you'll see a lot of those fan interviews in the event recaps that we put out there and things like that. But, that was a big thing that when we were kind of like brought into the fold by Dave and the rest of the board, we said, the big thing that we need to do here is we need to be promoting this event and this sport year round. It's not, hey, it's coming up in 3 months, let's start pushing it. No, like we need to be talking about it year round, especially being, the pinnacle event in the sport, there should be no quiet time in promoting it. So,
well, and in years past, I was one of the ones that did our Facebook page myself. Keith Seiler, who's now the director of, over media, we tried to do it ourselves because, we're involved with it. But then when we started seeing the video coverage that, Chris and all of his people were putting together, it's like, man, we want to put that out there. And then it kind of looked back and forth and, how do we request it and get back and forth? And that's when we really looked at having, Toledo Aerial do all of our social media. That way, we now have a list of these are, the holidays we want to do. These are, the most important point, March 1st, when tickets go on sale, we want to have that. And then they just produce a small video or a post that they can just take care of it. They have the good video there. So instead of us trying to request it and try to do whatever, and, we just let them take care of it. And when they started doing that, people started noticing our social media content definitely got better. So, that definitely worked out well for us.
Yeah, when I hired full-time people too for beer money, that's when our stuff got better. I don't have the patience for it, to be honest.
Well, the other benefit too is our team, we're the ones shooting all of this content. So there's not anybody better than us to know what we can produce because we know what we have. So it's hard to kind of know what the possibilities are when you don't know what's there.
Yep.
So.
Well, Chris, it's just like when you have your interviews.
I'm sorry, Dave, I was talking on top of you. What'd you say, bud?
They know, okay, hey, we shot this really cool video that would fit for, the 4th of July. It might have been, a tractor blowing up or whatever. And, there's our fireworks. They know that, oh, yeah, we took that. And I remember seeing that. So they'll use that. So that part we really like. And I know this last year, one of our founding members, Chris and his team and Jim Alt went out and talked to Dick Emsch, who was one of he's our last founding member. He's the last guy that was there when the whole thing was started. And we shot video because I want their story in their words. And so there's some things that are coming along that we haven't even used yet.
That's cool. There's a gentleman just got into the sport a couple years ago with the tractor in Iowa. He calls it the Breaking Barriers podcast, Chris. He's a great guy, has nowhere near your ability to do this stuff, but he's telling some good stories from some older pullers, like he said, before they pass away, before that, it's kind of like the 10 Commandments or whatever. It's been passed down for generations in the Bible and all that stuff. That this stuff needs to be told. Before I forget, Chris, did you get to go out to Farley? Did you go out with this for the on-site stuff?
Oh yeah. I think there's been.
What'd you think of the? It actually should be called Simon Says Iowa instead of Farley. What'd you think of that place?
It was wild. I mean, RJ kind of showed us around everywhere, and I mean, just the trucking company alone is just completely wild, and just all the infrastructure they've built. And then you get into the raceway, you get into the event center, you get into the cattle operation, you get into the whole crop operation that, one of the things that just shocked me is they grow all these crops and they don't sell them. They just go into feeding the cattle, Yep. So it's, quite an operation they have going out there. So a lot of respect to both RJ and Brandon for that torch that they've taken and just ran with. So.
No, I love it. Dave, Jim Alt says Ed Hart also. That must have been one.
Yeah, that was we did that one also. We shot a lot of that right in Bowling Green. You talk about things growing when Chris and his crew, they used to have a corner of our media room, and now they have that room you saw last year just for them. I mean, because what they're doing now is so much more than they ever did before. So what they've done has grown immensely.
Yeah, again, if you're just joining us, and I know we're up against the championship game tonight, but we still got really good numbers, Dave, so don't worry. We got people watching. Talking with Dave Schultz, president of Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association, and Chris Aldrich, one of the owners of TAM, Toledo Area Media. They're the producers Behind the Hook. We've been sharing some of the episodes here. Simon's, it was perfect timing. They've really, I would say, blown up in the last 4 or 5 years, their team, with what they're doing. They're always just kind of two-wheel drive pullers, and they got into minis, and they got into mods, and light mods, and big mods, and pro stocks, and easily pro stock is one of the most popular classes out there. Chris, is there a certain vehicle that has had more views? Like for us, like at Beer Money, like we know like a pro stock video is always going to do well because of the womp womp and stuff like that. From a view side of the point, has it been more of a name or has it been more of a class? Or has it been kind of even for the Behind the Hook, like for views, if you will, or for popularity of an episode? Have you noticed any similarities as you dive into the analytics or anything like that?
Yeah, and I just did that earlier this year before we released season 3, and then again afterwards once it had a little time to simmer. And that's what surprised me. We don't really see trends, So I think it's kind of a personality thing based on the ones that we see have the most views. But then again, there are those that I think are just the popular classes, like you alluded at, that draw interest too. One thing though that does seem to make a difference, to your point earlier, when they have a solid fan base on social media, they're pushing views to their video. So, but on the flip side of that, we've had episodes where the people have almost no footprint online and they've pushed tons of views. So I think that's where the personality and the story kind of takes over. So there has not been a one size fits all answer to that question for sure.
Well, I was curious because I kind of figured you would say that, to be honest with you, just because of the popularity of Bowling Green and things like that. Dave, I would want to ask you this question, and excuse me, but I don't know. I could go back and look and see every episode, but as anybody, their primary, you have to pull at Bowling Green, obviously, to be Behind the Hook. Have you had any teams that maybe don't run a lot of NTPA, but they come to Bowling Green every year? Or how does that throw into your decision as well for this series?
We basically look at all the teams because it is Behind the Hook and it is stories from the National Tractor Pulling Championship. So they have they have to pull in Bowling Green because that's kind of where we want to shoot a lot of the video, and it's their story of them getting to Bowling Green. And but will we look at a team that doesn't pull just the NTPA? No, we'll look at the people that come to Bowling Green. Every single team that pulls in Gate A has an opportunity to be one of our teams.
Okay.
For the next year. So, it's strictly the stories, from Bowling Green and, getting them there while they're there and what happens afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's neat. And that's kind of what I assume, but I like to ask that question.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions for Chris or Dave, please put them in here. Parade Alley Lounge is going nuts about the campground. Chris, I'm going to take you out there. We're going to sign William's camper this year, okay? William, I promise. I just can't put every comment that you have on the screen, so I promise. So it's all good there. So this year you picked a two-wheel drive truck, a mod, and let me think. I just looked at this a little bit ago, and a pro stock tractor. Dave, do you try to move it around from different classes so each class like some smoke and some noise, or does it more come down to the personality of the puller when you guys decide who's going to be on there?
It does fall into what class. I mean, we kind of looked at, when we're paring that list down, we'll go, well, geez, we haven't done this, or we haven't had one of these. So it does fall in, the class. We try to. Eventually we want to have one for every class.
Okay.
But, we also look at the popularity of the classes, and so it's a lot that goes into making that decision, and we look at do we even think that the teams will be willing to do it, but everyone that makes even the long list, we figure they'll probably if we ask them, they'll be willing to do it. So
what kind of feedback has like Chris or the office staff or the blue shirts got from Behind the Hook? Has it been holy cow, or is it just kind of, does it get kind of lost? I don't mean to say that, Chris, and you know, you know what I'm trying to do. Like, is this something that puts this event above other events, Dave? Do you feel the Behind the Hook series, or is it just another thing that makes Bowling Green great?
I have people say that they you know, man, it's just so great that you guys do it, and you know, we can't believe that it wasn't done before. And it was like, well, it just takes a lot to do, and it is an expensive project, you know. And I'll throw my board hat on this. It's an expensive project to undertake when you don't have, you know, underwriters. Fortunately, now we've actually gotten a couple of sponsors that are willing to put their name on an episode, and you know, that has helped us to be able to do this. And eventually, it'd be really nice if we could have, you know, a sponsor for every single episode, because at that point we could possibly jump it to, you know, 4 or 5. And I will say this, you know, Chris and his team have thrown the last 2 years, they've thrown a bonus episode in. Last year they did the 180th Air Force, which Army Reserves, or Air Force Reserve, excuse me, that does our flyover. You know, we didn't even know they were out shooting the stuff. And Chris sends me a thing. Hey, I got a video. I want you to see it. I want you to take it to the board and see if you're okay with it. And they threw that bonus one in. And this year was kind of behind the hook, you know, kind of where this thing went and, you know, how this thing we went together. And those are our kind of bonus episodes that, you know, really last year and this year we did 4 episodes, or they, you know, between the two of us, we did them. So.
No, that's cool. I love like those like the fishing shows and the crab fishing shows and Gold Rush, and they have those like at the end of the season they kind of have where they all sit around the table. That's kind of cool. What do you call that, Chris, in your world? Like a wrap up summary show or something like that?
Yeah, like a round table.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So,
but guys, I think we've talked long enough. I think we need to show a video, and I think we need to you know, debut who season 4 is going to be.
So Dave, what you're saying is you want me to play the video?
Yeah, let's play it. I've already seen this, and I actually sent Chris a text as I was leaving the building tonight. We the directors got together for a short meeting, and I played it for the rest of the board, and I said, hey, you know, I got something I want to show you. And it was like, well, they couldn't make no edits because in like an hour it was going to be you know, debuted, and quite honestly, they absolutely loved it. So, you know, I'm excited to show it to everybody. So yes, let's play this video.
Chris, set it up here. I'll push the button on a countdown. So you set it up here. Season 4. Do something extraordinary, Chris. So.
Extraordinary? I don't even know if that's in my vocabulary. Although it would be. I think Phil's watching. He said I had to get 2 words into this episode, so I'm just going to do it. Adjudicate and terse. That's for Phil, my business partner. He said I needed to work those in, so I'm going to cheat and do it that way.
What was the other one?
Terse. I haven't been able to work them naturally into the conversation, so I'm going to win by doing this.
Okay.
But
season 4 starts now.
Yes.
Here we go. Season 4, Behind the Hook. And now.
For the past 3 seasons, Behind the Hook has taken you beyond the track, giving you an insight.
Are you sure you want to do it right now, Dave?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right now. Let's go.
Right now.
For the past 3 seasons, Behind the Hook has taken you beyond.
Are you sure, Dave? Because we got a couple minutes. I could make him wait a little bit more.
He's gonna have a meltdown.
You showed video, but I want to hear sound. And when I played it for the board, I think the sound was on 60, so we need to turn it up.
Okay, I got it cranked. You guys can't hear the sound?
No,
I hear it.
I didn't hear it.
I heard it. Let us know. Yeah, I could hear it. Let us know, fans, if you can hear it. Phil Myers says yes. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm sure you can hear the sound, Dave.
Okay.
And I don't want to piss you off, Schultz. Here we go. No more screwing around. Here's who you're going to see on season 4.
For the past 3 seasons, Behind the Hook has taken you beyond the track, giving you an inside look at your favorite competitors. You've seen their livelihoods, their workshops, and the relentless dedication it takes to compete at the sport's biggest stage, the National Tractor Pulling Championships in Bowling Green, Ohio. This season, we're back with 3 new teams. new machines, and new stories. From Prescott, Iowa, behind the wheel of the workhorse Pro Stock, Rob Russell. From Camden, Ohio, with a full stable of two-wheel drives, Jesse Petro. From Shandon, Ohio, the young gun piloting the limitless light mod, Johnny Payne. This is Behind the Hook, Season 4, coming 2026.
Schultz, everybody can hear it but you. I just want the comments.
Well, I did, when you played it that time, I did hear it. So
okay, good deal. That's exciting. Jesse Petro was just voted #1 in the full pull driver rankings, Chris, by his fellow peers. I opened the show with that tonight, but full pull's doing driver rankings every week. And the rules are you have to be a 24 competitor and you can't vote for yourself. And so that's pretty neat. I didn't know that. I mean, I found out this afternoon when he sent me the video, but that was pretty neat to have Jesse just get named. And we're doing four-wheel drives tomorrow or Wednesday, I think. Yeah, Wednesday. So that's pretty neat to see that. So hopefully that's something you can bring into his interview as well, Chris, when you sit down with them. And Rob Russell, I mean, these are two legends. And then Johnny Payne, dad, grandpa. And Johnny loves hugs, Chris. That's how you get him to talk. Johnny begins with he runs for me when he sees me because I love to give him hugs, and he hates it. So.
When I walked up and talked to Johnny, it was amazing. I walked up and it was like, I mean, there was a crowd of people around when I walked up, and I don't think he said 5 words. And the longer I talked to him, he opened up. So that was really cool. I can't wait to hear some of the stories that Rob's got from all the years he's been coming to Bowling Green.
Yeah, Rob's what a story. And just, from super stock to pro stock and all that, it's amazing. And you're going to be able to go to his farm, Chris, and then Gene's Machine, Johnny's dad, Brent.
Yep.
Make sure you go to the chili, because I've heard about all this Ohio chili, but when I went and hung out with Brent and his wife and Johnny, we went to one of the famous, like Gold Star chili. Does that sound right?
Skyline?
I don't know. It was good though, but it was different. It wasn't the chili I'm used to in Wisconsin. So, and then Petro, I think Dan Mayer said Petro was like the winningest two-wheel drive puller in the history of the sport or something like that. 7 championships and just oodles and oodles of wins. And then, of course, lost his dad a couple of years ago. I mean, you're going to have some awesome stories. I mean, I don't mean it like that, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. And just right. So.
Well, and I see, Johnny is the story's not going to end up just being on him. It's going to be, on his whole family. And that's, that's the cool part about all of this, when I know the Simons, they talked about Roger, and, they know, they all know where they came from, and they give homage to their heritage of pulling. So that part's going to be really cool to see where that goes. And the same with Jesse. I mean, I saw Jesse this weekend at the WPI shareholders meeting, and I was excited. I said something to him that, hey, we were debuting it tonight. So I'm really, really excited to see where these videos go this year.
Yeah. And then here, Travis Schwalbaugh, he was on season 2.
Yep.
Awesome selection. Great thing here. I think we got a lot of Ohio people watching tonight. I need to know who has the best chili, Gold Star or Skyline. So let us know in the comments. Dave, we should pick up a chili sponsor for the National Tractor Pulling Championships.
Oh, there we go.
I was pretty sure you send some business their way. I'm sure when people come out to Bowling Green, they eat some chili. When you got down to, are you already thinking of 2027? Are you kind of watching, Dave, or as we head into season 5? I mean, I know we just launched this: Rob Russell, Jesse Petro, Johnny Payne. But are you already starting to put other things in your mind? I know. Just talk about how far you're thinking ahead, I guess, for possible competitors.
I'm actually thinking season 5, season 6 already. Okay. When I go to polls, when I'm at a poll, I kind of always looking around. It's just one of those. It never goes out of your mind. You constantly looking, and there's ones I kind of mental note of. Oh, this might be a good story, and so we'll see. See where it goes. Again, I kind of mentally jot them down, and then when it hits, we throw the whole list out.
Dave, what's been the biggest surprise from you that you didn't know about a puller that you didn't know until you saw the video? you have any stories that run through your head like that?
The one that really stood out to me was Travis Schlaubaugh. I didn't realize he was involved in as many things, and Joe Eater the same way. I didn't realize, that they do as many things that they do outside of pulling. That was the part those two really, to me, struck, with, wow, I just cannot believe they were involved in that many things. And to be able to dedicate as much of the summer and early fall to pulling. And, great people are great. They all have great people behind them, because I own my own small business with my brother, and there's no way I could take as much of the summer off as all of these people do.
Yeah, and I've watched this episode. I think the sacrifices that pullers make to go pulling, and there is no financial return on it at all. It's amazing. I mean, we make sacrifices, to be able to do this. So it's a lot of stuff. Chris, how familiar are you with other motorsports? Like you mentioned the F1 thing and stuff like that. Are you fans of other motorsports as well, or like passionate?
Yeah. Oh yeah, big F1 fan. I'll either watch them in the middle of the night if they're like the race that was just in Japan. I watched it right away when I woke up in the morning on Sunday.
Did you go to the race in Vegas?
I did. Yeah.
Actually
went with Phil. He's watching right now. Yeah.
So I want to know, why has not truck and tractor pulling got to that level?
Yeah, that's a question we ask ourselves a lot.
It pisses me off. It pisses me off every day. It really does. And I'm not blaming anybody. I just want to know why. I want to know what in your mind. And I'm not going to ask Dave because we've grown up in it, right?
Right.
But you're kind of an outsider, and you've seen a lot of stuff. I want to know why.
Well, that's that perspective. We appreciate that. Like I said, we didn't come into this having been around it for decades. We came into this. We've been embraced by it. We certainly know a lot more now than we used to, but we still can take advantage of that perspective from outside the box, So I think the biggest issue we've seen, which is what we always are trying to do, is truck and tractor pulling keeps to itself. And in a lot of ways, it isn't broadcast out there. It's not talked about. Yes, it's talked about a lot if you're in the circles of truck and tractor pulling. But if you're outside of that echo chamber, you don't hear a lot about truck and tractor pulling. Yep. That to me is the biggest problem, because yes, of course, F1, NASCAR, IndyCar, they have a lot more in terms of budgets and a lot more in terms of sponsors and everything else, but they're constantly blasting that out there everywhere. And really, that's why we always look at those top levels of other motorsports. And me specifically, being a huge F1 fan, I'm always watching what F1's doing, even though by and large, totally different demographics that they're targeting. But a lot of the things that they do to gain viewers, I mean, just look at so F1 basically was, a European-based sport.
Right.
And then and Drive to Survive was their idea to try to build a larger fan base, because it lived in an echo chamber just like the pulling world does.
Yep.
And Drive to Survive has exploded F1 in the States. Before Drive to Survive, there was the United States Grand Prix in Austin at Circuit of the Americas. That was the only race in the States. Now there's Vegas, there's Miami, there's talk of Chicago and New York. So what they were trying to do, now there's other factors too, but Drive to Survive has been huge for it. So that's why putting so much energy and time into Behind the Hook is important for us, because we truly want to grow this sport. We're not just here, to get a paycheck and produce some stuff. We actually care about this sport now, and we feel, we being our entire team, we are vested in this now. We want it to grow.
Yep. No, I do too. And that's why I went to go work for Full Pull instead of, focusing on Beer Money Pulling Team, because I knew social media wasn't going to take this to the next level. I can get a bunch of followers and make money on YouTube or Facebook, but I don't care about that. I want to make enough money to pay my staff. I'm not going to lie to you, but I want the pullers to get paid more. I want the promoters. I want sponsors beating down Dave Schultz's door so he can have the biggest payout in history of pulling. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's fun because we talk in our own circles. I love to hear from people like you outside, because when we took Adam Bauer's 5-engine unlimited to PRI, okay, that turned a lot of heads. Like, holy shit, you know? And it is the greatest motorsport on earth. You know, and I didn't know what F1 was until the only time I see it, Chris, is on Sunday mornings on ESPN. You know, and then when I was out in Vegas for SEMA, they were setting up for for the race coming in, and you looked at the grandstands they built for this, you know, and they race in the middle of the night because of the time zones, because it's so popular, you know, in Europe. It's just wild. I bet that's a question I've been wanting to ask you, Chris, and it has been. You're right. We have not self-promoted this thing enough. And I think we're on our way now, but we're just getting started. We got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Another thing, transparency. Thank you.
Another thing that Phil mentioned in the comments there, I see, you know, that's a big thing too. That's why, you know, we started kind of nudging the board a couple of years ago. Hey, we need to get some young blood into this series to show people that there are young people involved in the sport. That's why, you know, in season 2, we really liked the Theobalds because they're bringing up a new generation of young guys now in the sport. We got to show people as well, you know, not only does the sport need to talk about itself and brag about itself outside of its own circles, you got to bring in new blood. And when there is new blood, put them on a pedestal and show people, look, this isn't just, you know, a middle-aged or older guy sport. There's young people playing this game too.
Yeah, so I'm heavily involved with the Outlaws on the social media side of things and live streaming, Chris. They do an Outlaw Young Gun program for 16-year-old to 25-year-old pullers. They have their own sponsorship thing. They do autographs. They have hero cards, and they're really trying to do that too. So that's fun to hear. It's fun to hear Phil say that too. You know, and I don't know Phil as well as I know you, but you know he's invested in this well. Tam and Jim's got a great comment here. Truly believe Tam and NTPC will take it there. I mean, that's just no offense, Dave. You guys have the audience. I mean, you need to be the McDonald's of the fast food franchise, Dave. You know, the trendsetter, the people taking it to the next level. And I'm not trying to put extra pressure on you. I think you know that, but I mean,
oh yeah.
It can't be just about Bowling Green. And I know it's not with you guys. I mean, you know the impact that Bowling Green has on all of the sport. Everybody in the freaking world knows about Bowling Green, Dave. So,
but you know, the thing is, we want to be able to tell the story, because when you have, you know, pulls like Wasion, you have pulls like, you know, Napoleon and Greenville and those type of pulls, you know, if we tell people about tractor pulling and the person sitting in and they see a TV commercial or they hear it, you know, on the radio of, hey, there's a tractor pull, let's go see what this is about. And, you know, it's like the live stream. We were actually just talking about it earlier tonight of, you know, with live stream, you know, is that going to take people away from coming to an event? No, we actually look at it going, if we show people what's going on, you know, live stream doesn't have the smell of the fuel and you can't turn the TV up loud enough to make your chair, your lazy boy chair, you know, shake all over the place. Then, you know, to me, watching it on TV is second best. And
I will tell you, Dave, and I hear that a lot with Full Pull, you know, because we're going out there and we're promoting streaming more than anybody ever has in the sport. It's always been just kind of mediocre, okay, right? And we're really trying to put a big emphasis on it. And that's one of the things I hear. So my comeback is always, if somebody can get to the pull, they're going to go to the pull, right? And we know that. And secondly, that's like saying, I don't want my song played on the radio because I want you to come to my concert. And, you know, and with our first year of Full Pull Live, some of the promoters said to us, you're going to take away your crowd. And I'm not going to call them out on here, but I walked up to a couple of them and said, the place is just freaking packed. And they said, yeah, you're right. Look, there's not a place to sit. So it's fun. But the promotion we're extra putting on the event like that, Dave, it's more free advertising for the event. So.
And that's, you know, that's what we looked at going, you know, it opens the door to new fans that are going to go, oh, this is really cool. They see it on TV. And let's go see one in person, whether they're coming to Bowling Green or they're going to, you know, another pull. That's the whole thing of, you know, letting them know that there's how many pulls a year. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I mean, pulling now is almost 12 months out of the year, you can go to a tractor pull somewhere in the United States.
Well, we're learning that with Full Pull Live, Dave. We streamed it every month except December this past year, and that's where we're going to launch our schedule at the end of April. And there's stuff going on all over the country. We and Brandon and Trevor, I didn't forget about you guys in Claypool, but this is good stuff. I got 2 kids from Cal Poly coming on next. Cal Poly and Luis Obispo. They have their own pool. You know what I mean? And it's this coming Sunday, April 13th, and it's neat. And their club, and that's how these kids get invited and all that, or involved. It's super neat. But I want to keep going on this a little bit because this is good stuff that we're talking about.
Yep.
And you get a lot of comments on here that make it great. So, Chris, from that F1 side of things, do you know what it costs to build an F1 car by any chance?
Oh, millions.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So lots of millions. Yeah, a lot of money goes into that. Not unlike these machines too. So, I mean, especially when you're talking an unlimited. So, it's the thing that's just wild to me. And I think there's multiple factors. One, I talked about, I think tractor pulling needs to talk outside of the bubble more. That's one thing. They need to have the young blood. That's another thing. Another part that I saw, Autumn, she's on our team, she commented and said, teaching people what it actually is. As crazy as it sounds, there, are people when we, outside of our tractor pulling circles that we mentioned, we produced this series for, and they don't know what tractor pulling is. They literally think it's 2 tractors that are hooked together and pulling against each other in some sort of a tug of war. So there are a lot of those people in this world, which I know to most of the people watching this sounds ridiculous. But
we got solid fans watching tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so most of these people on here probably are laughing right now, but the thing is, a lot of those people that think that, those are potential fans. So like Autumn said, teaching, that's what we try to do, some of that in Behind the Hook too. And maybe we can take a stronger focus on that in the future, or maybe it's a separate initiative, but really teaching, there is a lot to it. I know when you're inside of pulling, it seems pretty simple, but there really is a lot to it. Even just the differences in classes, doing a better job of explaining that, because you need to make it palatable so someone can walk in the door and understand at least at a base level. And I think that's, you need to know the personalities a little bit. I think Behind the Hook does that. It's kind of showing a variety of the classes. Behind the Hook does that. But definitely like the education component, I think, is important. And then we've got to get people to come into this sport with an influx of money. There is, F1 has no lack of money. It's ridiculous. I mean, I was in Vegas. There was 400,000 people attending that race. I mean, the amount of money that they just announced not too long ago that race in Vegas has now become the biggest cash influx for Vegas. Vegas of all places. Think about all the events that happen in Vegas.
There's something
that race
every week.
Yeah, that race is it. And it took them 2 years to topple everything else that happens in that city. So there is a lot of money out there. I think this sport needs to get in front of the right companies that want to come and back it with serious amounts of money. I'm not talking $5,000 or $10,000.
No.
I mean, millions of dollars.
Yep. Well, once we can show them the media that they deserve, that they want to put their logo on or be part of, that's where I feel we've let it down in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were the last sport where somebody can just show up with a camera and stand in track and throw it on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's we're ending that. It has to. You either, if you want to watch it, you're coming to the pool, you're buying a ticket, or you're buying a live stream, and a live stream supports the promoter. And that's just how things have to work going forward. And I'm excited for the future, guys. Thank you Dave. Thank you for raising the bar for all of us with Bowling Green. I expect that out of Bowling Green, not just you, Mr. Schultz, out of everybody, because you are the thing. Dave, I want to go to Mata with you. I literally do. That's that big pull in Europe. I think it's the Bowling Green of Europe. I want to see the fireworks, the screens at the end. Sounds like it's pretty amazing. I think the Boxers and Mary Kale went over there last year, right?
Yes. Yep.
I think Blade Graves are going this year. But that would be fun. That'd be fun to do Chris, check that out. Look that up. It's called MADE, MADE, and then I'll send you a link. It's amazing. So
yeah, that'd be great.
It'd be a fun road trip.
It would be. It would be. Dave, thank you for the opportunity to preview this on Let's Grow Pulling. It means a lot to me. Chris, thank you for, again, stepping up and being transparent and honest with us tonight. I think that's important. I'm going to kick you guys off. I'm going to play your video one more time, and I'm going to go out west and promote pulling with the San Luis Obispo guys from Cal Poly. Chris, Dave, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. So
sounds good.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah, I'm going to play the video one more time, fans. These are the pullers you are going to see on Season 4 in 2026. Again, Chris is one of the owners of Toledo Area Media, the producer of Behind the Hook. Dave is the president of NWOTPA, Northwest Ohio Tractor Pulling Association, more commonly known as Bowling Green. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with who I got in the back room, Brandon and Trevor, and Mike is back. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
For the past 3 seasons, Behind the Hook has taken you beyond the track, giving you an inside look at your favorite competitors. You've seen their livelihoods, their workshops, and the relentless dedication it takes to compete at the sport's biggest stage, the National Tractor Pulling Championships in Bowling Green, Ohio. This season, we're back with 3 new teams, new machines, and new stories. From Prescott, Iowa, behind the wheel of the workhorse pro stock, Rob Russell. From Camden, Ohio, with a full stable of 2-wheel drives, Jesse Petro. From Shandon, Ohio, the young gun piloting the limitless light mod, Johnny Payne. This is Behind the Hook, Season 4, coming 2026.
Brandon, Trevor, how are you guys tonight?
Doing good. How about you?
How does it feel to follow Bowling Green on the Let's Grow Pulling podcast, Trevor, on a scale of 1 to 10? So.
Feels pretty good, you know. I mean, we're probably almost there, right?
All right, here's a genuine question from California. Had you guys heard of Bowling Green before tonight?
Yes.
Okay, what did you hear about Bowling Green? And be honest.
That it was the biggest, baddest pull that there is. Yeah.
Brandon, you're a city kid that rides bikes. What have you heard about Bowling Green?
Yeah, I've heard it's a badass pull through you guys, through Beer Money and through Let's Go Pulling for sure. Like that was my into it. Just saw it on videos and stuff, and I've just seen it's a massive, awesome event.
Yeah, that Behind the Hook is their. I don't know if that's their behind the scenes that they do 3 of them a year. We revealed tonight the top. Their next pullers for next year: Rob Russell, Jesse Petro, and Johnny Payne. Joe Claypool, I see you back there. We're running a little late. You just stay behind the scene, and Joe's coming on tonight for our Pulling Through the Past. Mike, you let me talk to the Bowling Green guys by myself. Did I do okay, or did you get a chance to watch?
You looked. You know how you're kind of grooming me to be like the next Jason Schultz, but every once in a while,
I don't want you to be Jason Schultz because people either love me or hate me.
The master has to get back in the saddle every once in a while. And it kind of looked like you were on one of those old school victory laps right there. And I was like, because there was about 20 times just in the 10 minutes that I caught of that last interview where I really wanted to talk because it's like my favorite thing to do. And I was like, I'm just going to sit back and watch him work. So,
I got your text, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to work tonight. So I was like, I started doing a bunch of notes and I caught up with Chris and he sent me that awesome video. I love what Bowling Green's doing. We're trying to do some of that with Full Pull as well with our Legend series we've been launching. I think we got Wayne Roush coming out, Wayne Sullivan, and then Dan Mayer. We have the Rain Man of pulling working for us now. Our voice, our traveling announcer, and he's doing some of that stuff. And we did some behind the stuff, but man, that Behind the Hook is legit.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
And we had a shit ton of people watching tonight, even though has the national championship game started yet, Mike? Do you know?
We were watching the wife having cooking shows downstairs, so the
Cardinals
lost. Who knows?
We had twice the audience we had on tonight. Normally we have about 100 or so watching live. That's where we are right about now. Sorry, Cal Poly guys. We're up to 200 people watching live. Between YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
The Behind the Hook, and I think that speaks about just Bowling Green and what that mini series and that biography that they do, people have sank their teeth into that. And when they tease the next one's coming out, that's big time stuff that people want to tune in for. And yet again, they're hitting us with 3 major names of pullers that we want to see. When they released that list, I kind of said to myself, makes sense, as they should be. Those are another 3 that we want to hear from. But we want to hear from Brandon and Trevor. We're getting close, right, guys?
Yeah,
This is the last week we likened it to a midterm paper, and at how like 10 days out, you didn't even have to start typing yet. But at this point, I would say hopefully we have our topics selected. We're down to it. We don't have to actually start working yet, but like we have an idea of what we're going to do. So what do we still have left to do, boys, before it's go time?
Feels like a million things, but just so we've told you about the bleacher. It looks like Brandon's out there right now at the field, but
hold on. Let me kill my stop. I'll make Brandon big. I don't normally like to make Brandon big, but we will.
Hey.
Wrong.
That's Michael.
That's Mike. See, Kenzie, I gave Kenzie the night off looking for that button. This is what happens when they let me drive the ship here.
Happens.
It's not it.
That's Michael.
Why do I keep doing that, Mike? Here it is.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
This just in, Jason Schultz pushes the right button.
Yeah, so there's our track.
Yeah, so
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie at all. That looks 100 times better than like the aerial photos that you guys were sending to us, and like that looks
that's
good.
What it looked like before a field.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's coming to say hi to me.
Yeah. Probably the police.
Trevor, were you at? I got a
We'll
question for Trevor. Were you at the Pullers Championship in Illinois last year?
Last year, yes, I was.
So you got a good feel for us Midwesterners, like what our soil composition, what our dirt, what our pulling track look like. I don't know if the rest of your team was out, but like give us a live update. Like compare that soil out there we're looking at right now. Compare that track to the tracks we have in the Midwest. Is this what we would call a loose track? Is it a power track? What are we looking at behind us here? Compare that to what you saw at Nashville this last year.
So this track specifically at Cal Poly is not the best. It's super clay dirt, right? So like it's so much clay that we can't put a roller on it, or it's going to turn into concrete, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So like we're just going to soak it, try to get the water as deep as we can, break it up with a disc, and then kind of pack it a little bit with some trucks maybe, but there's no it's hard as a rock once it gets dry, but I would say it's this track at Cal Poly is pretty finicky to get just right, and even then it's definitely not a good clay biting track like you guys would be used to.
So your pullers are like, if our pullers went out there, they would struggle with kind of almost staying on top and like burning the tires off. Kind of, it'd be almost what you'd call like a glassy surface that's going to get. Now the antiques would love it. Like that is what, like the harder you get a track, like those two bangers, they love that stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's we get our tractors to hook up just fine, but it's just not a biting track. Like you're gonna have your weight in the rear and lower your tire pressure for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Trevor, I'm gonna play a couple of videos you sent me. I'll play one, then you can talk about what's going on. Okay.
Okay.
Are you going to fill up all those bleachers, Trevor?
We're hoping to.
Awesome.
That was our setup day on last Sunday when we were putting all the bleachers out. So we were about halfway done there, but.
Now that's a pretty legit watering system.
I was gonna say that's we just did that today.
No, but I've seen promoters with garden hoses. Okay, so like this year, I've seen promoters with garden hoses. So
no, that was definitely a Cal Poly project at some point. It's like an old milk tanker or something that they turned into a water sprayer. Like Brandon's walking over to it right now. It looks like, but it's kind of wild.
That does look kind of wild. So don't.
It's called the Silver Bullet. It's
nice.
It's pretty homemade, but it works.
Hey, it works.
Are you guys, is Cal Poly, so are you guys like the rednecks of Cal Poly, or is Cal Poly just what happens when like rednecks accidentally get really smart? Like which is it? Are you like the section full of the smart kids who are kind of doing things the way we do it down home around here, but you can do it like, you know, more intellectually, or is the whole college that way and it just, you took a bunch of good old boys and they all got, you know, like 32s on their ACTs?
You know, it actually, it's a combination of both, I would say. Like our major specifically, and our department as a whole, but specifically our major of bioresource and ag engineering, there's some kids that are in it for the bioresource side, and then there's some like us that are in for the agricultural engineering side. And we call us either the plant people or the rednecks. And so it's, you know, it's a combination of both, I would say. But
Trevor, Cal Poly is hard to get into, right? It's not.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Like you have to have a brain, right? Even though when you look at Brandon, you would assume there's no brain in there.
You just see hair, right? Yeah.
You just see that hair. No, I love you. I love you guys. You're great. This is awesome. So,
yeah.
Brandon just sent me a couple videos. I think I'm gonna play these. Give me a second, guys. Keep chatting for a second. So, Trevor, how do you guys raise money? Do you do like some auction stuff, or how do you guys raise money for this event?
So it's all mostly just sponsorships of you know, companies, local companies, or companies that maybe their kid went to school, you know, 10 years ago and they still just support the program, or students who have graduated and now they work for this big time company, or it's just them and they want to pitch in $100. It's a lot of that, and a lot of, like I said, local companies that we just hound them till they give us money. But it's a pretty good following, I'd say, of people who every year just are ready to donate. And you know, sometimes even we forget to send them a donor packet because the list gets screwed up or whatever, and then they reach out asking if they can send us money. So it's really cool.
What time does everything start on Sunday, Brandon?
What's that?
What time does everything start on Sunday?
We'll probably be out here 6 or 7, but show starts at 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trevor,
and another big fundraiser bit is ticket sales. Like but for the club, its ticket sales doesn't actually it goes back to the students. So the students end up getting scholarships at the end. But just as a club goes, like we get scholarships or the donations and stuff and everything cover the cost of us paying for the boards to try and to fix all these bleachers and nuts and bolts and stuff like that. And then whatever money we make, it goes right back to the students. So
how many students are involved in the tractor pull club, guys?
On a good day, like 30.
Okay.
But it's got some ups.
Does everybody kind of rally around this event and everybody's all in? Or do you guys, is it like every other thing the rest of your life, 6 people do all the work and 30 people claim credit for it?
That's what it feels like this week. Yeah.
That's
but
fine.
There is a lot of people, and you know, it's hard because everybody's in classes, and not everybody is as committed to just ditch all their classes like Brandon and I. I mean, we go to class, but our minds are not in class. But
right,
it's hard to get that many people on the same page all week, but we get it done.
Gotcha. What do you guys get all the bleachers from on campus there? Is that from like the softball field, or you guys stashed those somewhere? That's quite a few bleachers, Brandon and Trevor.
They were all made by the club years ago, and we keep them all in a field. Actually, we take the bottom half and flip it upside down and set it on top of the back half, and then that's how they get stored, and keeps the boards a little bit nicer. But yeah.
I did not kick Brandon off, Trevor. He kicked himself off.
I figured.
Just want to be clear. But I got a couple videos, and then we'll let you guys go. You guys got to get ready for Massetti and friends here. Yeah, that looks like a great facility. I'm not coming out this year, so it's not going to rain. I bring rain with me, Trevor. Do you guys have a lot of sponsor banners, Trevor, that you're hanging up then along the side? Good.
Yep.
Good deal.
Yeah, we do.
Well, Trev, we're going to let you go. I know you got to get ready for Massetti and friends. Thank you. It's been great getting to know your family. We'll continue to be lifelong friends, and I hope nothing but best for you guys this weekend. And I hope, send me some videos. We'll get them posted for you, okay, buddy?
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you guys for having us on.
See you, buddy.
Best of luck.
Thank you, Michael.
You betcha.
All right. One segment left. Joe Claypool. So this is our first guest on Pulling Through the Past.
First time. So pulling through the past, fans, if you've been watching this with us, it's been a lot of fun. Still have a lot of vintage pulling photos. For anyone who doesn't know the Pulling Through the Past, we're going through my personal collection. And fans, if you have ones that you want to submit as well, we want to share the vintage pulling photos and the stories from the glory days of truck and tractor pulling. And I've kind of muddled through and told stories as well as I can. And then it dawned on me, if I have pictures, let's reach out to the drivers themselves. So Joe Claypool out of Macon, Missouri, thanks for joining us tonight. You are our first Pulling Through the Past guest.
Hey, Mike.
Let's take a look at it.
Hey, Mike, before Joe talks, how much money did you offer him? Because I mortgage is tough right now. I just want to be clear. Like, is he coming on?
He came on completely willing. He said anything to help you guys out. He's a fan of the sport. He's an ambassador of the sport.
No, I'm just giving Joe shit because I know Joe.
Joe, how are you this evening? Thanks for joining us.
Pretty good.
Good. So this picture that I have is actually not one of my personal collection. I've got 5 pictures loaded in here tonight. We might get to the others, but I really want to give you a platform to talk about it. Jim Harmon, originally out of Shelbina, Clarence area, took this photograph. He has several that he sent me. I think he lives up around Des Moines now. So the Risky Business, cool looking shot right here in what looks like, is this down at Six Flags?
Yeah. Tri-State used to have pull there. Oh, I don't know. We've probably done it 3 or 4 years in a row.
So tell us everything you can about this picture right here. So obviously we've kept the name throughout our entire time, still calling the 4-wheel drive Risky Business. Was this the first truck? Was this one of the first ones? Any idea what year it is? Just give us what you can give us.
This here is an 84 Chevy, and this is one of my first trucks. Running 482. Of course, we thought back then we was making lots and lots of horsepower. And when you watch the videos, it looks like it's pretty slow going down the track. Nothing like it is today.
So it's a 1984 Chevy, and you're pulling with the Tri-State pullers just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. It would have been in Washington or wherever,
That old bush sled, Joe?
Yes, it's old bush sled.
I saw that down. It's in Illinois now. It's owned by the Roughcorn family. And they
old boy and Moberly had it for a while.
Okay. Yeah, that's neat.
Any idea, if you had to guess what year this photo was taken, what would be your
say
best
it's probably 87, 86, or 88, right in there would be my guess.
Okay, so you said this was one of your first trucks. Is this not? How did Joe Claypool get into truck pulling, and what was truck number 1? What did it look like?
This is part of my original truck. I just changed body. I just went to a newer style is what I done.
Okay. How long did you campaign this? And there was at least one other truck before you got to the current one you have now. Could be several more, but walk us through what happened after this one and bring us up to speed.
Well, this here was my first one, and I probably run it. Now you're going to make me have to try to think. Probably somewhere in the 90s, and then I actually bought the truck from Roy Holland. Blue bonnet.
I was gonna say it was blue, wasn't it? I feel like it. I kind of remember. I saw someone else post a vintage picture of it. I don't remember seeing it, but I remember seeing some photos.
And I kept it the same. I changed the name. Was the only thing I'd done. I kept the original paint job.
Was the blue bonnet? Was it out of Texas?
Yes.
Okay, so that was one of those heavy hitters with like Kenneth Popham's truck and Manuel Marino's. Was it? It was one of those janky trucks.
Yes,
wasn't
it was in that group right there. All 3 of those.
Yeah. So. Well, then I will say this: you've had a good nose for purchasing some pretty competitive iron at various points in your career.
Just got lucky. That's all.
So we went from the Risky Business, this red one, the 84 body, up to the blue one. And then did we go to the S10 that you have now?
Yes.
When did that one kind of come into your stable?
Somewhere in 2000, and I don't know, 4, 6, somewhere around in there.
Okay. Awesome. So with the one we're looking at right here, Tri-State Pullers, did this one stay pretty local, or where all would you have campaigned this red one right here?
I would run it in, like say, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and sometimes down in Kentucky and Tennessee.
Okay, so this one right here traveled pretty well then.
Yeah, we traveled as much as it could. Of course, the old saying goes, your job kind of kept you from running a points championship very much.
So, tell us about the hauler that this thing would have kind of had its way out on. Was this on a flatbed truck? Do you have a school bus? What took this from point to point?
I had an old school bus, old 72 Chevrolet school bus is what I hauled that one on.
Okay. Awesome. So any idea where this truck could be found today?
Only thing left of that truck right there is that passenger door that you see right there right now.
And I'm guessing that's hanging up somewhere pretty close to home?
Yep, hanging on the wall.
Okay, so we've still, and everything else just, so did you sell this one, or did it kind of
I parted it out. I used different parts on the other truck some.
Okay. And then let's talk about that blue one, the Risky Business Blue Bonnet Edition, if we want to call it that for the sake of this show. Did it get sold, or do you have maybe its door hanging in the shop over there?
No, I still have the body and the frame left.
Okay.
Front end and rear end's been taken out in transfer case. But no, I still have the original cab and hood front clip.
So this is really, really funny and really interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing some research on the Milky Way truck, driven by Kenneth Popham down there out of Texas with those janky motors and everything. And I spoke to some folks, and the Texas Blue Bonnet came up kind of several times. And I said, I can just barely remember that. That's really cool. I did some research on that. And lo and behold, it was sitting, one of them anyway, was sitting 7 miles down the road from me, just the next down. Here I am. I'm making phone calls to people in San Antonio, and I'm messaging Manuel Moreno on Facebook, and it was literally just, in the town where I get my groceries. That is
and my youngest son, Eric, he wound up having the Milky Way truck too. It was the same place. We owned it for a while. You're kidding me. Yeah,
so the Milky Way truck. So I chased down this thing like a ghost. I was doing some points record keeping for the Outlaws, and I'd never heard the name Kenneth Popham. Every single name else I'd heard, and that is a heck of a story to then realize that it was 5 miles from the house. That is, I'm going to have to come look at it. We're going to have to meet up in person.
Now Eric, we had motor trouble, or he had motor trouble, so he wound up feeling like it was getting more than what he could do, so he sold that.
That is too cool for school. So, Joe, you've had a really, really nice career with truck pulling. I know that you were the points champions with the Outlaws, in 2022? Is that your most recent victory?
22 was my last one.
Okay. How many points championships do you have under your belt total?
Just 2, 2020 and 2022.
So the S10, would you say that it's kind of your bread and butter truck at this point, or do you miss maybe this old original?
No, it is.
Sure. Now, that truck in and of itself, has obviously been very successful. And a fun story that we had, of course, in this past season was seeing Cody Lewis come back out on the track. Were you kind of excited to see that, your counterpart there in Macon was back out in the pulling world again?
Yeah, I was tickled for him. So that's him and his boys.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be neat to watch, watch his kids as they kind of develop and see where their future is going to be with that. Well, I've got a couple other pictures here. And if you don't mind staying on with us for another 5 minutes or so, some of these pictures were actually taken in Macon, Missouri. And I don't know, maybe you know a thing or two about them as well. My next vintage pulling photo, this is Joe and Dave Elson with the Blue Bayou tractor. Now, this was at the Show Me Showdown, probably about 1992. Of course, this would have been taken just there, pits north of the North Grandstand. I don't know much about it. They would have been one of my next ones to reach out to. I'm assuming this is going to be a light super or a 7,500 super. Joe, I'm assuming you probably were at the Show Me Showdown all through the 80s
I was
and
there.
90s. Yep.
I'm sure I was there.
Yep. So that
I don't know who owned that tractor there at all.
And then we had a fan submission. We'll get back over here in the world, the four-wheel drive pulling. This is Jimmy Nash piloting Making Tracks, submitted to us from Jeremy Tyndall, all the way out of North Carolina is where Jeremy is from. Joe, have you ever pulled against this one?
Not that I know of.
Then we've also got, we'll go a little bit further back and just a little bit up north. This is at the old Kirksville racetrack, the old Kirksville Oval Track that sits right where Walmart sits now. Around 1985 would be when this picture was taken. This is Jim Miller out of Tough Hombre. I think Jim was out of Nebraska. I think he was over there in that. I think Fred Petch was actually one of the ones that helped me track down who this was and had a little bit to say about him. Yet again, going to be another probably a light super. I think we're looking at a 460 or a 560 here. But I know Fred said, I think he's out of Nebraska, and he said he was a tough runner. So I think this is 1985, and this is I'm all but certain this is Kirksville is where this picture would have been taken. And tonight's final submission is kind of a newer, but still a bit of the throwback. This is 2002 is when we've decided this picture came from. This is from Clayton Olam, Joe Kwiatkowski in the Taking Care of Business. Of course, this tractor's still out there, still looks almost exactly as it does now, but now it's with the whole family there in Wisconsin in their stable. So, folks, there you have it for the first time on Pulling Through the Past, straight from the driver's mouth. Joe Claypool's first edition of Risky Business. Where did Risky Business come from? What's the moniker there? What's the story behind the name?
There was a movie one time about risky business, and I thought, boy, that just pretty much fits this sport because everything you do is a risky business.
Absolutely. So
was Clint Eastwood in that movie?
No, I can't tell you who was in it now. I'd have to go back and look.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. He was.
I just thought the name just kind of fit pulling really right to a T.
The movie Mike when he slides down the hallway in his socks.
Yeah, there you go. In his socks.
Yep.
No, absolutely.
That's probably way before your time there, Michael.
Yeah, I've seen the scene you guys are talking about, but I wasn't around. I did not see this one come out in theaters. I'm not going to lie. I was not there for the premiere, but no, that's wild. That's absolutely. This is why I love tracking down vintage pulling. So talked to a lot of people out of Texas and out of Oklahoma and tell me stories of the Texas Blue Bonnet and looking for the Milky Way. And there it was sitting in the shop right alongside the original Risky Business. So Jason's
5 miles from the house.
That's truly remarkable. We are going to have to do a shop tour over there and, put some of that on Beer Money Pulling and get some pictures of that. That'd be cool. Yeah. Jason with the first ever movie screening on Let's Grow Pulling.
See, Mike, when you're on, you talk a lot, so I don't have to worry about talking. And I compliment you're a better talker than I am, and then I can just go do the fun stuff like this. And I gave Kenzie the night off because we're working out of a different office today, so we're not at the regular studio. So
it's all good, all good. Joe, are you getting pumped up to go pull in 2025?
Yeah, we're waiting on some parts.
Sure,
as usual.
Sure. Yep, that's the Risky Business of it. So one neat thing. So I did a shop tour with Terry Hagedorn last year, and then I saw later on in the season where he had the Hagedorn Racing, production, where he calls it, stamped there on the side of your truck. So I learned a lot in that shop. I can imagine that's someone that you are pretty happy to be sending parts and pieces to be tinkered on.
Oh yeah, I mean I like it. It's only 45 minutes from the house too.
Yep. Yeah, there's a strong, you stop and think about it, and modified four-wheel drive truck pulling in North Missouri, North Central Missouri, between Herman and Macon, when you got the Ritters, you got yourself, you've got Cody, you've got Terry. There's a hotbed of four-wheel drive pulling right in this area.
Oh, years ago, we could have had a pull dang it right there in town almost, and nobody had to come from out of town almost.
Sure. Yep.
Joel, is there a favorite decade of pulling for you? Like 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, 20s?
Well, I like right now because the horsepower we're making and the speed that we're getting up to. I mean, I watch, watch a video of that from there at St. Louis, I mean, the gear ratios we were turning back in those days were the final was somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 to a 30 overall final. Now we're hitting, 18s and 20s and, somewhere in that vicinity right there. I mean, we jumped almost 10 gear ratios overall for your final. So that's a lot difference in the speed.
Good.
A set of tires back in them days, back in the 80s, last you a long time. You didn't have to worry about burning the tires off of them.
That's funny.
Yeah, I bet that's true.
What's your Joe? You've been pulling for a while. What is your why? Why do you continue to do it?
Oh, I just love the sport. I mean, my dad got me started into it, and when I was 15, of course, let me take a tractor to town, a John Deere 4520, and run it in a 15 open class, and wind up winning, and that just ranked me right there.
Awesome.
So, I might have been into sprint car racing if somebody would have had anybody to have taught me anything about it years, when I was a kid, but didn't have anybody close.
What are some of your, like, when you get your schedule and you build your schedule for 2025, what are some ones that you kind of just immediately go through with the highlighter and say, we love pulling there. We have a lot of success. What are your pulls?
I love going to all of them. I mean, your main goal is trying to run for that points championship. So if you're going to do that, you got to go to them all.
So you're in it. You're a guy who's in it for the long haul and the consistency of it. You're not out there kind of, which we're seeing that more and more. We're seeing pullers build kind of these freelance schedules where they kind of pick and choose where they go. But I like that mindset. You're out there
works for me. I mean, the schedule, the outlaw schedule, because of where I'm at, located in Missouri, and it's just to me, you got to pick one.
Yep.
And if you want to try to run for a championship.
How many hooks do you guys have this year, Joe?
I think they're around 19, 20, somewhere right around in there is where we're at.
Is that the perfect number for you as a competitor, Joe?
I'd really like to see about 25 for the year. I mean, that's about what I'll run on a set of rods is about 25 passes, and then it's feel it's time to start changing then, so it's time to freshen up.
Yep, fair enough. Well, Joe, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for coming on tonight. It means a lot to us. Mike, I love this. I love having a guest on for Pulling Through the Past.
You never know. It's honestly phenomenal what you'll learn. And pulling is this huge geographical sport, where we were just talking to people from California, or I'll be calling people from Texas. And the more I learn about it, it's huge, but it's tiny at the same time.
Yep.
The blue bonnet sitting right over there.
I didn't know I was going to be the first sucker to be on. I didn't know that. He didn't tell me that.
Hey,
Joe, we couldn't have picked a better sucker.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. You're correct.
So here, it's like a test hook, though. You can throw the thumbs up or the thumbs down. You can drop to the end and come back at the back of the class if you want to. So
I don't think that'll be as good as pulling.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's cool, Mike. Thanks for doing that. Joe's a good dude.
We're going to try to reach out to him. Another one, I won't lie, it's really easy to get into contact with a person who lives right down the road, So some of these pullers, their names I don't recognize, and you have to do quite a bit of digging. But definitely thank you to Joe Claypool for coming on there, telling us about the original risky business. And you kind of heard him. He didn't come right out and say it, but 2025, the S10 risky business, it's got one goal in mind, and he's going to.
Joe's got that look on his face. He's not going to be effing around this year.
Yep. I picked up on that as well. I kind of got that.
Not that Joe ever effs around, but he's ready. He's ready to get after it. So.
Well, and that truck, he knows how to drive it, and that truck is not anything to be slept on. So
no, it's badass.
Yes, it is.
Kevin Davis, Wayne, Nebraska, checking in, one of our outlaw promoters here tonight. So, Mike, we had a great show. We're going to wrap up so people can head over to MLM Motorsports and watch that, and Massetti and Friends. So we have split that off now, fans. We were just rolling kind of right into them, but I'm 49 years old, and I can't stay up till midnight anymore and get up and be a good person the next day. So I'm just being honest with you, and I want to check it out. But he had a great show. Mike, I do want to dive in a little bit with you, and I want to do this full pull driver rankings. Have you read about it? Do you know much about it?
Yeah, I was there. I was not eavesdropping, but not directly involved. Like as I was, doing my driver interviews at the National Farm Machinery Show, and as I was, kind of in the mix of what was happening in Broadbent, one of the big goals that, the drivers were working on was creating their driver rankings. And they were kind of talking about their power rankings and whatnot. I love the sports side of pulling. So I feel like people get into pulling for one of two reasons. They have a mechanical background or a mechanical angle, or they have like a competition, like sports angle. I don't have the mechanical background, but I grew up in, ESPN was the first thing turned on every single morning, still is. So the idea of a power rankings, just like they do in all other major sports, is something that's very easy for me to get behind. So them kind of releasing who they have ranked and how that can transition and change, I love that. So what did you think of your top five?
This is voted on by the competitors. So you had to be a competitor in 2024, and the driver had to compete in 2024, and you couldn't vote for yourself. I don't know who all voted, but I know it was a mix of Outlaw, PPL, NTPA, and a few state associations voted on this, Mike. So they were told the best driver, not who has the most money, not who has the best equipment, who's the best driver. Who, if you're leading the class, who don't want to be last hook.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you ranked your drivers 1 through 5. So Jesse Petro had the most first place votes, I believe. I assume that's how it works. But if you wrote down your first place column, that's worth 5 points. Your second best driver got 4 points. And then our full pool, only one person did all of this because they wouldn't share any of this with me because they know I got a loud mouth. And but you look at this and you tell me you are. I mean, I know the Outlaws are your jam now with announcing, streaming, and that's what you do for us here at Beer Money Pulling Team. And you're our engagement specialist. But who got? Do you think of Don Nelson? Does Don Nelson?
I have big feelings about this list, and I would love. I know we have to transition to MLM, but I want to talk about this.
No, they're already live. We're good.
So when I look at this list, what this list tells me is this is my take as a sports analyst, if I can call myself that. I think drivers looked at this and they said, I'm going to answer this on a body of work. I'm going to answer this in a holistic. Now, a holistic career, absolutely. Jesse Petro, of active drivers right now, who is currently sitting on the crown jewel of a career, Jesse Petro is number one. But to me, a power rankings list, as you see them in
driver rankings, as you would see like a college basketball or a college football team, it's always very relevant. It's always very who is doing what right now. So what jumps out to me first and foremost is I would have had Chase higher. I think when you look at the reigning NTPA Grand National and National Farm Machinery Show back-to-back champion, I'm surprised that the Suffer Insanity truck isn't higher on that. Petro has to be on the list. Donnie Sullivan has to be on the list. I think you have to have one of the Nelsons out of their camp, the Illinois Nelsons, on there. I would love to say, so you're right. Yeah, Outlaws, can I point over the right shoulder? Outlaws are my jam right now. That is my home team. I love them. But the proof's in the pudding. And 90% of the time, the Outlaws are the ones that when you go to Freedom Hall, people do get a little bit nervous. But this year, the track and everything wasn't, it didn't pan out. So right now, I would have actually put Richard Morris on there, and he would have been in kind of my 4 or 5 spot. Now, I think Donald is like 1 or 2 seasons away from maybe freshening some things and being back at the top tier of two-wheel drives with the Whip It Motorsports, the Texas Bullwhip Motorsports team. I think we're going to see them there, but I think his labor of love at the moment is the new mod and getting the Bullwhip mod going again too. But I don't know. I would have, my number one vote probably would have been Chase, just because of what he's done right now, so he won Inderley, he won the Grand National points, and he won Louisville.
It's just, if he's a college football team, you would say, what more would he have to do to be, the number one?
Yeah, so Chase isn't actually a higher gun, Chris. He's actually, him and his dad own that truck It's Brian McDonald's chassis, and it's their motor. So that's the I have inside information on that as a friend. So, but Chase gives a lot of credit to Brian McDonald a ton. Well, and he should, because Brian McDonald set that truck up for him to go drive it. But I didn't know Chase. I'm not a Chase Richardson historian. I just always thought he was a mini rod puller, and I didn't know he started in 2-wheel drive trucks until I started working with full pull. To go through all this. Jared Nelson, he's a stud. Michael White's awesome. He got second at the farm show. That's not one of those.
Is he that like gray truck? Is it like Apex or
No, Apex is Teasley's.
There's another one, but does it kind of look like that one?
That's Michael White.
Okay, so I get that truck. I had it in my mind that truck was in with the Wallace camp. Now the Wallace theirs is like a maroon, almost looks like looks like Donnie Sullivan's truck.
Exactly. Yep.
So, but does Michael White pull? He's like a TNT or a Mid-South puller? Or is he? Would you call it? So like sometimes like I refer to like Craig Corzine anymore as like an X Factor puller, or like he'll almost build his own schedule and like he'll pull ITPA, but then show up at Toma and everyone says, "Oh crap, Corzine's here." Or he'll show up at Chapel Hill and everyone says, "Oh crap." Is Michael White? Would you kind of put him in that way where he could show up at any point and win at the drop of a hat?
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow the 2-wheel drive class like some fans do. I didn't really know who Michael White was this year until the farm show. I mean, I knew of him. But then when he got Chase on Friday night in the final or in the qualifier, then Chase nipped him in the finals on Saturday night by a couple of feet, if I remember correctly. So
another name that made her way, I thought she did a nice job kind of making her way back into the world of like, hey, don't forget about me. I still know what I'm doing in 2-wheel drive was Lisa Tatum. I thought she had a really strong farm show, and I look for her to kind of capitalize on that momentum. And to, she's another one that if that list got pushed out to the top 10, I wouldn't be surprised to see her in that 6 to 10 kind of quality.
I don't know if they're going to, we should talk to Dan about that down the road, if he'll do like a 6 through 10. I don't know if they will or not. That's up to Dan.
Who comes out next?
4-wheel drive trucks. Here's the list. So 4-wheel drive this Wednesday. This is on the This Week in Pulling podcast every Wednesday night.
So you're not a huge door slammer the way that I am, in the 4-wheel drive truck class.
I didn't grow up watching them. I mean,
right, and that's everyone's. I'm not a big pro stock guy. I'm going to get crucified for saying that. In the world of pulling, every jaw just hit the floor. How do you not love pro stocks? But so even though they're not at the top of your moving and grooving, who would be some of your 4-wheel drives that if you had to make just a quick off the top of your head top 3 power rankings list or top 5, what are ones that just boom obvious, got to put them on there?
First, I'm going to answer Bill. Yeah, it was rated by their fellow competitors. Bill, I don't know the exact number of competitors, but I know that Full Pull took a contingent of NTPA, PPL, Outlaw, and then some of the bigger state associations, and said, please rank your top 5 drivers, and it's a point system. So if you list a person in the 1 spot, they got 5 points. If you list them in the 2nd spot, they got 4 points. And then the total number, that's how Petro got to be number 1. He had the most points. So that's how that works. And Bill came on episode 36 of the No Practice podcast, and that was very, very popular. So everybody go check that out on the YouTube. 4-wheel drive trucks. I am not a huge 4-wheel drive truck fan. I'm immediately going to say Holman's, because I think they're the most winningest, and I bought one of their trucks at the Bowling Green thing. So Varner. Is that a name? I just feel like everywhere I go, Varners do well. Foster's, Rob Foster, I think is an animal. Mangan, but see,
Mangan. See, I'm going to go back to what are you doing right now? I think if you build your Mount Rushmore, you put Jim and Paul Holman on. Jim and Paul Holman are your Babe Ruth.
I think they were said vote. You had to pull in 2024, and you couldn't vote for yourself. So they grabbed people in the class. So. I think that's why maybe you thought Chase should have been higher. I don't think Chase was a dominant 2-wheel drive truck until last year, to be honest. But from a driver category, his fellow competitors are nervous about him. That's how I rate it. Like if you have the lead and as an announcer, I did that a lot in him and Mike. Who are you most scared of? And everybody says, "Oh, I'm scared of everybody. They're all good ones."
Yeah, yeah.
I want pullers to be honest. Like I'm only worried about the Dixie Ram girl. Brady Ingram's back there. Yeah, he's a badass, and he got her. Yeah. You know what I mean? So Caroline did that down there in Hammond. So I think
there is no crew out there more Midwestern nice and diplomatic than truck and tractor pullers.
Yeah.
Very rarely will you get someone to outright say, unlike NASCAR and roundy around racing, like that's the guy and I'm gunning for him. And they talk about that on the No Practice podcast. They said that's why it wasn't the worst thing in the entire world that we had a little bit of a rivalry call out in a certain class at the farm show this year, just because, we can have some.
I think that's why we, as pullers or Midwesterners, when we see like that rivalry, like in a rap gang or in sports, when we see somebody, I think we all kind of like, ooh, that guy's a dick. Mm-hmm. I like rivalries. I think it's fun. We need more of that. I like it when Jeff Hurt calls people out. You know what I mean? It's fun.
Well, I would put in my four-wheel drive driver ranking what I would also consider to be one of the better rivalries in the sport of pulling right now. And I think you got to put them both out there with Terry Hagedorn and Jim Bosch. And you've got two guys that in PPL, I mean, they slug it out at every event. And they're kind of the two guys back there that, you got to get around both of them. And both of those guys, they have something that reminds me of that on the track. They're just fierce competitors on the track, and they remind me of a Jeff Gordon and a Dale Earnhardt, and I think you have to put both of them on there.
Jamie Bush has kicked ass at the Pullers Championship. We had him. I think he's won it both times we've had that class. I like Chris Kilbarger. He's been awesome on the show tonight. A lot of comments, but I want to see your 5. We still got quite a few people watching. Give me your top 5.
Yeah. Okay. So Zerings, I don't know based on what I've seen that you could leave Ike or what's his dad's name? Jake. I don't think you could leave Zerings off of it. They are
you love four-wheel drive trucks. I know you do. Okay. Give me your top 5 outlaw four-wheel drive trucks. We're gonna do PPL, outlaw, and NTPA right now. And if there's any state association have badass four-wheel drive trucks? Or is it pretty much
Illinois, ITPA with that Southern Bell truck. But I think a lot of those guys also kind of run Western Series PPL. They fall in that, we're a little bit too far west to be east and a little bit too far east to be west, right? I would say they've got some decent ones.
Okay, give me your top 5 outlaw drivers.
My outlaw drivers.
Not money, not best equipment. Who are your best drivers in the outlaws?
Best driver.
I want you and Ron to tackle this a little bit tomorrow night
too.
I know actually Texas is back, and I want you outlaw guys to shame this damn drivers for not putting more outlaw people on there, because Donald Nelson. How could Donald Nelson not get in the top 5 for 2-wheel drive?
I would almost, if we're gonna go driver.
That's what it is. It's driver ranking.
Nothing against Donald, but in the 2, I'd almost put Mindy. Mindy's the one with 2 wins at the farm show. Mindy can bend that stick too. But no, either way, Texas Bullwhip Motorsports not to be in the top 2-wheel drive. But 4-wheel drive outlaw. Doug and Dustin Ritter, I almost have to call as the same person because they're just such a ubiquitous team. But either or. So they would be my pick to. I hate as an announcer saying I'm going to pick them to win because you don't want to be biased, but I would keep a sharp eye on Team Ritter this year. That truck is singing a.
They had a good farm show, right?
Yeah, they got second. Yep. Okay. So I would put them on there. Then the very next one I would put would be Joe that we just had on the show. Between his driving style and just that truck itself, which, by the way, thank you, Cody Lewis, for the model. It's sitting on the shelf right back over there. After that, Josh Mazur's good. Derek, the high class grass, they're still working some bugs out. Christensen's are pretty legendary. The Nut and Honey's pretty good. I'd almost have to circle back. I'd have to pull up my results from last year and come back. But my no-brainers, I would put those two on there. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Let's give me your top 5 PPL drivers. So you're going to go Hagendorn. I know that.
Yep. I'm going to go. Well, I'm going to go Terry. I'm going to go Midnight Raider, James Bosch.
Yep.
This is biased, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Cody Lewis. He's a 2-time National Farm Machinery Show winner. He's in a new truck. He's gonna get that figured out. I'm gonna go Charlie Hines. I think
Wild Texas style.
Yeah, I think that he's still got a lot of good stuff left in the tank of that. And then James Bosch out of Michigan, but then Jamie Bush out of Iowa. He's got a 650 truck and he's got a mountain motor truck. Is he, where do we call him? Is he an outlaw guy? Is he a PPL guy? Is he an NTPA
I don't know.
guy?
I want you to be driver. I know we're so fixated on the vehicle. This is driver.
Oh, I'm terrible about that. I almost see like the vehicle is almost the rock star to me. But yeah, if you just look at driver, but no, I would say Jamie Bush. I would put him in there as well.
Well, that guy could drive anything. That girl could drive anything. That's where we want. That person could jump on anything and be good. You know what I mean? That's kind of what they have to do there. NTPA, you're going to go Foster. You're going to say Zering.
Holman.
Yep.
Going to say Holman. I'm just driver. Then you got to go Petersons.
Okay.
Dude, I think both of them are absolute wheelmen, and I think they get a lot out of they're one of those. I think they work on everybody else's stuff, and because of their profab, and I think their own stuff takes a back seat. So I feel like they get a lot out of theirs. I don't want to say they get a lot out of a little, but you know what I'm saying, because they're absolute rock star drivers.
That's why I like that Full Pool's asking the drivers, the fellow competitors, to vote. Mike, I like that. And it's anonymous. Nobody has to worry about it sneaking out and so-and-so voted for so-and-so. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I think it's cool.
There's a lot.
Scott Phillips impresses me, the Yankee Blue. He hasn't been out in 12 years. That's
kind of why I threw Cody on there, because I feel like he's still got it in there. I want to go back to a point you said.
What about Mangan? What about Mangan? 2 back-to-back Grand National Championships?
Mangan, and he kind of, to me, wasn't on the radar a lot before that. He kind of quietly climbed the ranks and paid his dues. You talked about driver. You said, who's someone you could just put on anything. And I've got one name. I think this human is the single best driver in truck and tractor pulling, and I think you could put this person on literally anything and he could win in any class, and that would be Carlton Cope.
Really?
I think Carlton Cope's another one of those that he spends
what else have you seen him drive?
He jumped aboard the Mac Daddy tractor at Chapel Hill in 2021. And oh man, so he spends a lot of time wrenching on everybody else's stuff, and he takes a very unique setup to his own. But when you put just a bread and butter 680 big block deer in front of him, and you're like, hey, here's the top of what everyone else is doing, it's like magic in a bottle, dude.
You're saying he'll drive around you?
I think so. I think you put Carlton Cope. I think he has. I think Colin Ross is the same way. I would definitely put Colin in there. I would put Joe Ader in there. But I think Carlton Cope, he's out there running with a V8 Perkins just because why not? But if you just handed him the keys to the city, watch out. That's just, fan, announcer, whatever. That's my opinion.
No, I like it. That's what makes this fun. Is the opinion.
I think Carlton Cope has the potential, he works on everybody else's stuff, but when you just hand him hey, buddy, here's what the rest of us are dealing with, I think you could see some wild things happen.
Cool. That's a good take. I like that. Well, so I want to wrap this up because I'm going to go home and go to bed. But great show tonight. I kicked off driver rankings. I was hoping to get you on earlier. I knew you had some other stuff going on tonight. Got a beautiful Bowling Green in the backdrop there. Go back and watch our interview when you get a chance, Mike, with with Dave and with Chris. We got after it a little bit. It was fun. We talked about a lot of stuff. I feel like I asked a lot of good questions. I don't want to throw a bunch of softballs every episode. I want to get after it a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful, but I also want people, to be honest with me. And I asked Chris why truck and tractor pulling isn't where F1 is, or NASCAR, NHRA, or stuff like that. So that was fun to do that tonight as well. And then we talked to the Cal Poly students, San Luis Obispo, this Sunday, April 13th, 1 o'clock. Guys, if you're close, go check it out. I went out last year. It rained, and it rained hard, like so hard. So I felt bad for them. And then talked to Joe Claypool. I love your Pulling Through the Past episode. I think that's cool. Super, super cool. So, yeah. What else, Mike?
F1. I really liked listening to that. That's so I coached the middle school Scholar Bowl team this past weekend, and they did really well. And there were actually a handful of questions about F1 that came up. I'm an old school guy. If it's roundy round, it's NASCAR. Like I know a little bit about that. I did not realize. So what I'm getting to is like my middle schoolers knew the answer to every single one of these questions. When did Formula One become they have overnight out of nowhere built an empire? And then that brings the next question. If they can, why not? I don't want to call us a secondary sport or an obscure sport, but like a mid-major sport. Why not us? So that was cool to listen to Chris talk about it. And I feel like he didn't beat around the bush either. He was like, there's an answer, and it's, the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rules. And, so, but yeah, that's intriguing. F1's got some funky stuff going on. They're all about highlighting. I watched this too. I'll send you the video. There's a video floating around on YouTube. F1 peels back the curtain and highlights their drivers on social media and puts their drivers in front of the camera. And I almost sent it to you. I was like, I've heard of this business model somewhere. Like, no, I'm serious. Like, it's
Well, we're gonna round it up. I'm gonna show our promo. Kenzie made an awesome video for Hutchinson, one of our customers, for social media. Then I'm gonna end it with the Bowling Green video, then our ending video. I have a smart box. How hard is it to get a Puller's channel? Robert, what are you asking? I have a smart box.
He's talking about, so he's got like a Roku or an Amazon Fire, and he wants Full Pull Live, Outlaw Pulling TV.
Full Pull Outlaw TV is now Full Pull Live.
Yeah, just if you already have Outlaw Live on your streaming platform, delete it and then re-download it, or just download Full Pull Live. It works great on our Amazon Fire Stick, and then just log in from there.
So, Mike, I'm gonna play Hutch, and then I'm gonna play Bowling Green, and I'm gonna do our outro video. So I'm gonna log us off. Mike, I love you, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Have a great night.
For the past 3 seasons, Behind the Hook has taken you beyond the track, giving you an inside look at your favorite competitors. You've seen their livelihoods, their workshops, and the relentless dedication it takes to compete at the sport's biggest stage, the National Tractor Pulling Championships in Bowling Green, Ohio. This season, we're back with 3 new teams, new machines, and new stories. From Prescott, Iowa, behind the wheel of the workhorse pro stock, Rob Russell. From Camden, Ohio, with a full stable of 2-wheel drives, Jesse Petro. From Shandon, Ohio, the young gun piloting the limitless light mod, Johnny Payne. This is Behind the Hook, Season 4, coming 2026.
look at it.
You grab a national state level, you have to run non-sales, wholesale.
Is like 9,000.
The only mistake I made, I didn't put her in the registration booth with the
just this ever-evolving story.